Chapter 75. A day later, he slightly recovered his magical power and decided to do one thing. He needed to collect enough sense beads to break through to the peak of Gold Core realm. According to his estimation, it was impossible to break through to the peak of spirit sense without 1,000 Gold Core sense beads. But now, he only had less than 100 sense beads left after annihilating Green Clan. If he didn't have any sense beads, then he would rob them. He leaped onto the immortal cloud with the small sable in his arms. Mu Weiliang and Ning Honghong followed behind him. Ning Honghong's body was still weak, but under Ning Fan's treatment, her complexion gradually turned better. Mu Weiliang stood on top of the cloud. She was still surprised that Ning Fans could annihilate Green Clan with just one move. The immortal cloud flew straight to the encampment of Black Clan. Black Clan had more experts than Green Clan. The Great Elder was also a peak Gold Core expert. But when Ning Fan's silhouette appeared in the sky above Black Clan, the entire clan panicked. Evil. The evil star is here. Quickly activate the grand formation of the clan. The patrolling early Gold Core ghost trembled in fear when he saw Ning Fan's gaze at him. He heard that this human in front of him was a madman. He annihilated Green Clan alone. All early Gold Core ghosts within 300 miles of him would die without exception. He activated the grand formation in a panic. All the experts of Black Clan immediately realized that there was an enemy invasion. Ning Fans held his chin and revealed an inexplicable smile. He didn't know that his reputation had reached this level. He didn't come here to kill people. He just wanted to use his reputation to extort some sense beads. The more famous he was, the better it would be. His eyes moved. He patted his storage pouch and took out the Dan fragmentation cauldron. His mind was recalling the time he spent with the old monster, including the time when the old monster destroyed his sect. Master. I will improve my cultivation to restore your strength and eliminate that evil disciple, Moksha Emperor. His eyes suddenly turned cold. He would never forget the warmth of 7 Apricot City for the rest of his life. He pointed at the Dan fragmentation cauldron and said coldly. Hey Wumian, come out now. Hey Wumian was the name of the Great Elder of Black Clan. And Ning Fan's tone was almost the same as the old monster. Immediately, the Dan fragmentation cauldron smashed onto the grand formation, splashing countless formation lights. This formation light was obviously not as good as the Green Clan's. After all, in the third region, it was rare to see a Green Clan's Great Elder in the Tao of Formation. The cauldron shattered the formation light. With 2 cauldrons, the ground collapsed. 3 cauldrons, half of the Black Clan had collapsed. The whole Black Clan was in chaos. The dignified clan protection formation was broken so easily. The Great Elder of Black Clan, He Changmian, was a woman with a cold face. She gritted her teeth and soared into the sky with more than 10 late Gold Core experts, staring at Ning Fans as if they were facing a formidable enemy. Zhou Ming. Green Clan provoked you, so you annihilated Green Clan. We have nothing to say. However, Black Clan has never provoked you, so why did you attack us? I'm only here for the sense beads. Give me 100 sense beads and I'll leave immediately. Ning Fan's expression remained unchanged. His gaze swept across the Great Elder of Black Clan's delicate body, which made He Changmian's face turn red from embarrassment and anger. What a frivolous and arrogant boy. If it wasn't for your amazing strength, I would have dug your eyeballs out. Great Elder, he wants 100 sense beads. Why don't we just give it to him? A few elders felt relieved when they heard that Ning Fans only came to rob something. However, a late Gold Core old man with a bony and stubborn look objected. No. Although he is robbing the inconspicuous sense beads, how can we, the Black Clan, keep our face if we are robbed in public? He Changmian glared at the old man. This old man was really ignorant. If it wasn't for the fact that they were in a disadvantageous position, would she allow Ning Fans to take advantage of her? The other elders lived like princes. Would they bow and scrape to Ning Fan? As for Ning Fan, he wasn't surprised to see someone objecting. He gently pinched the small sable's hind leg, touching a place that shouldn't be touched. The small sable's body trembled and its eyes revealed a look of extreme anger. How dare you touch my place? Who asked you not to release your demonic chi? If you don't release your demonic chi, I will continue to touch. Ning Fan teased. Shameless. The small sable's body trembled. She was afraid that Ning Fan's would touch her place again. Immediately, she released her demonic chi that ghosts feared, covering the sun like a dark cloud. Under this demonic chi, the strength of all the elders of the Black Clan, including He Changmian, began to be greatly sealed. He Changmian's pretty face turned pale. She knew that if she didn't agree, Ning Fan would attack the Black Clan. Young Master Zhou Ming, wait. My Black Clan is willing to give you 100 cents beads. She clenched her teeth and clenched her fists. Finally, she agreed to Ning Fan's request. Ning Fan smiled and patted the small sable's back, making her retract her demonic chi. He deeply looked at He Changmian. He liked women who could see the big picture. After leaving the Black Clan, Ning Fan continued to sweep through the third region. He didn't kill a single ghost. He had already established enough prestige. If he killed more people, it would hurt their feelings and make it hard for him to rob. Killing 9 enemy cities and leaving some leeway was the best time to snatch things. Yes, the old devil taught him. Bai Ji, come out. Ning Fan's Dan fragmentation cauldron fiercely smashed the grand formation of the White Clan. Chen Kong, come out. The Chen clan couldn't escape from misfortune. Du Xingheng, come out. The grand formation of the Du clan was destroyed. Ning Fan's last stop was the Bone clan after sweeping through the 11 clans that were close to the Bone sovereign. When Ning Fan stood on the peak of the Bone clan and gazed at the hundreds of miles of skeletal buildings, his eyes froze for the first time. The Bone clan wasn't simple. The power of the Bone formation wasn't any weaker than a nascent realm grand formation. Moreover, there seemed to be a kind of extremely cold white bone chi in the grand formation. It seemed to be very beneficial to nourish the white bone mountain sword chi in Ning Fan's body. This white bone chi was extraordinary. Ning Fan pondered for a long time and found out that it was one of the 12 heavenly frost cold chi, but it wasn't the black yin chi. His face was filled with joy. He didn't think that he would have such a good harvest in the demon sinister forest. Although he didn't find the black yin chi, he found the white bone cold chi. Since I have found a treasure, how can I not take it? This time, he didn't show up immediately to break the grand formation of the Bone clan. Instead, he quietly descended and devoured the white bone chi along the periphery of the Bone clan. For 3 days, the grand formation of the Bone clan continued to weaken. At first, no one paid attention to it. But later on, the guardian of the formation noticed the abnormality of the grand formation and reported it to his superior. The great elder of the Bone clan, Guemo, was a white-haired old man wearing a bone armor. His face was as gloomy as water. He received reports one after another that the grand formation of the other ghost clans was destroyed by a young man and robbed of their sense beads. Apart from the 3 ghost clans that were close to Meiji and the Green clan that had been annihilated, only the Bone clan hadn't been invaded yet. Zhou Ming, this name sounds so familiar. Gumo's mind recalled a few days ago when he was chasing after Mei Chen. He met a timid young man on the peak of a mountain. That young man seemed to be called Zhou Ming. That day, he seemed to be disdainful of that young man. No, it shouldn't be the same person. There are so many people with the name of Zhou Ming in the world. He shook his head and pondered why Zhou Ming hadn't come to the Bone clan for 3 days. He had improved the power of the grand formation to punish this Zhou Ming. But at this moment, Guemo received a report from his subordinate that the white bone chi in the grand formation of the Bone clan was disappearing. Impossible. This is the Bone Prison Chi bestowed by the Bone Emperor. It's one of the 12 heavenly frost cold chi. Unless someone devours and refines it, it will never disappear. Not good. That Zhou Ming has already come to our Bone clan to seize the Bone Prison Chi. But he discovered it too late. Before he could order a thorough investigation, the ground of the entire Bone clan suddenly rumbled and shook violently. The white bone cold chi in the grand formation of the Bone clan was forcefully extracted. The remaining formation light wasn't even at the nascent soul realm. 1 cauldron, bone-breaking formation. 2 cauldrons, bone-breaking formation. 3 cauldrons, more than half of the Bone clan had turned into ruins. Guemo, come out now. When Ning Fan shouted out those words, Guemo, who was in the main hall of the Bone clan, was shocked. Zhou Ming was here. But what shocked him the most wasn't Zhou Ming's intrusion, but the familiar voice. It was exactly the same voice as the timid young man he met that day. It's him. It's him. He soared to the sky in a flash and stared at Ning Fan's face in disbelief. It's really him. Guemo looked at Ning Fan deeply. His hostility towards Ning Fan was suddenly concealed. When he met Ning Fan, he didn't see through Ning Fan's identity as a living person. He didn't see through Ning Fan's cultivation base. He also didn't see through Ning Fan's false words. This young man had hidden his strength well. He wasn't a boorish man who was all brawn and no brains. Since this young man dared to come to the Bone clan, he must have the strength to annihilate the Bone clan. Not only did he seize the Bone Prison Chi from his grand formation, but he also broke the grand formation with just a wave of his hand. I want sense beads, 100 of them. Ning Fan's plain words were still overbearing, but it turned into a bitter smile in Gumo's heart. It's better to give it to him. In case this young man's hidden strength wasn't as simple as destroying Green Clan, he might end up the same as Qing Lingshan. Chapter 76. The Sable and the 2 girls guarded Ning Fan. Ning Fan sat alone in the bamboo forest for 6 days. After refining nearly 1,000 sense beads, his spirit sense had reached the peak gold core realm. Peak gold core spirit sense. In Yu country, Ning Fan's cultivation base might not be high, but in terms of the strength of his spirit sense, he was definitely in the top 10. He exhaled a mouthful of turbid chi and counted his harvest in the demon sinister forest. There were still more than 100 sense beads left, but they were useless to his current spirit sense. The small marten had stolen quite a lot of spirit herbs, but it had managed to snatch back a lot of them. There wasn't much of a change in the quantity. It had lost a few of the main ingredients, such as the nascent formation pill, but it had gained a large amount of medicinal ingredients needed for the spirit-raising pill and the spirit-strengthening pill. As for the magical treasures, there were 5 tool spirit magical treasures in Ning Fan's storage pouch. He could use them to devour the tool spirit art in the future to cultivate the second art of divine art, defense art. As for the 5 peak high-grade flying swords, Ning Fan could barely use them with his current spirit sense. However, he could still exert 1/10 of their power, which was more than enough to kill an intermediate gold core cultivator. As for the Eastern Ocean bell, this bell gave him an extremely mysterious feeling. Ning Fan's magical strength wasn't enough to wield a supreme-grade magical treasure. If he used his spirit sense, he might be able to exert 1/100th of its power. What concerned Ning Fan the most was the inscription on the bell. If he could decipher it, he might have a great opportunity. Apart from that, Ning Fan also seized 2 immortal execution orders and 3 death substitution orders from the Great Elder of Green Clan. The immortal execution order could kill experts below nascent soul realm. The death substitution order could save one's life once. The moment he obtained the death substitution order, he gave Mu Weiliang and Ning Honghong one each. He infused a trace of soul force into his own and wore it. It seemed that he had accidentally discovered the way to consume the Jade Royal Dan, which was to relieve pain with pain. On the prairie, the flame could extinguish the flame, and one wouldn't feel any pain at all. There was a great truth hidden in this, but it wasn't something that Ning Fan could comprehend now. However, he understood one thing. If he wanted to consume the 4th Jade Royal Dan, he didn't need to wait for decades. He only needed to endure the same level of pain, and that would be enough. When he entered the demon's sinister forest, his cultivation base was only at the intermediate harmonious spirit realm. But now, his cultivation base had broken through to the late harmonious spirit realm and his spirit sense had reached the terrifying peak harmonious spirit realm. He had obtained Tion's inheritance, the third style of the divine thought technique, cultivated the divine thought incarnation, and condensed the sword thought sea. Even in the outside world, he could kill an early-stage gold core realm old monster in an instant. He could even kill a middle-stage gold core old monster. If he exerted his full strength, he could also fight a late-stage gold core old monster. In Sinister Sparrow sect, excluding Sinister Sparrow Z and the missing Ling Giku, Ning Fan was probably the third strongest expert. Other than the improvement of his cultivation base, he had also accidentally obtained a rib bone of Bone Sovereign, which could increase the power of his Separation Slayer sword. Separation Slayer was already a low-rank high-rank sword. Once it was refined again, its power would at least reach the middle rank or even higher. As for the Bone Prison Chi that was ranked 11th among the 12 Heavenly Frost Cold Chi, it was purely an unexpected gain. However, Ning Fan could only absorb the Bone Prison Chi into the Yin-Yang Locket. He couldn't devour it because it required too much preparation. Black Demon Flame, White Bone Flame and Bone Prison Chi. If he could steal the Black Yin Chi in the future, he would have 4 kinds of Heavenly Frost and Earth Fire. If he could completely refine them, he would be able to fight a nascent soul cultivator even if his cultivation base hadn't reached the nascent soul realm. It's time to find a time to cultivate the Black Demon art and Snow Treading art. And, I can't delay the cultivation of the Yin-Yang transformation. To open the second level of the Yin-Yang Locket, I need to collect flames and have intercourse with a nascent soul female cultivator. I don't have to worry about the flames, but a nascent soul cauldron is hard to capture. The Yin-Yang Locket is my biggest reliance. Without the Yin-Yang Locket, Ning Fan wouldn't be able to capture those beautiful and powerful female cultivators. Without the Yin-Yang Locket, he wouldn't be able to collect the Heavenly Frost Cold Chi and the Earth Vein Demonic Flame. Without the Yin-Yang Locket, Ning Fan wouldn't be able to open the inheritance of the Empyrean Sky Remnant Scroll by chance. Ning Fan didn't know what the second level of the Yin-Yang Locket was, but he knew a little about the third level of the Yin-Yang Locket after a conversation with the mysterious woman. Once the third level of the Yin-Yang Locket was opened, he would be able to use the magical treasure space of the Yin-Yang Locket, the profound Yin world. And he would be able to save the mysterious woman. There were too many ways to increase one's strength, but Ning Fan knew that the most important thing was to increase his magical power and cultivation base. He was still a late harmonious spirit cultivator. Breaking through to the Gold Core realm was much more difficult than breaking through to the Spirit Sense realm. There was no shortcut in cultivation. He was afraid that he would need at least 10 years of seclusion to break through to the Gold Core realm. It seemed like there was another harvest, a huge amount of sect contribution points. His sect contribution points had reached 15 million after killing the group of ghosts and annihilating the Green Clan. He wondered how shocked Sinister Sparrow sect was right now. Sect contribution points could be exchanged for magical treasures and pills. Ning Fan didn't know what he could exchange for with so many contribution points. Why not exchange them for the Black Yin Chi? His eyes moved. He could discuss this matter with the sect master after returning to Sinister Sparrow sect. There was still half a day before he would leave. It was time to bid farewell to the girls. He walked towards the Green Ghost River quietly. The Sable and the 2 girls were standing by the riverside in silence. Mu Weiliang looked a little listless as if she sensed that Ning Fan was about to leave. Ning Honghong didn't show any expression, but her occasional frown showed that her heart wasn't completely unmoved. As for the Sable, his eyes looked slightly complicated. The life and death restriction was about to dissipate. After that, she, Mei Chen, would no longer have any relationship with Ning Fan. The ghosts of Demon's sinister forest couldn't leave this place. Once they did, they would immediately turn into ashes. He might be able to bring the girls out with the cauldron ring, but once they left the cauldron ring, they would vanish into thin air in less than an hour. I'm leaving. What's your plan for the future? Ning Fan asked softly. I'm going to Purple Clan. I've made up my mind. After I recover my strength, I'll fight the Bone Emperor again. Mei Chen wasn't timid. She seemed to be influenced by Ning Fan's courage. Sister Hong Hong and I will return to Red Clan. Mu Weiliang said in a low voice. Is that so? Oh yes, let me show you something. Ning Fan remained silent for a while. He shook the cauldron ring and took out a green coffin of extraordinary quality. Mu Weiliang and Ning Honghong didn't feel anything when the coffin was taken out, but Mei Chen immediately transformed into her human form. She didn't care about her nakedness and touched the green coffin with disbelief. This is the heavenly coffin of the ancient heavenly court. Where did you get it? The heavenly coffin was the burial place of the Jade Emperor. Didn't that mean that there was at least a corpse of a true immortal in this coffin? Mei Chen was too surprised that she didn't notice that she was naked in front of Ning Fan. A moment later, her pretty face was bleeding and she felt so ashamed that she wanted to die. Ning Fan found it funny and threw a robe to her. Of course, it was the robe that he had worn before. He didn't explain anything and gently moved the lid of the coffin. A beautiful face of a sleeping woman was revealed in the coffin. That face was somewhat similar to Mu Weiliang's. This is, when Ning Honghong and Mei Chen saw the face of the female corpse, they looked at Mu Weiliang with a strange expression. Mu Weiliang felt a headache and seemed to recall something. She squatted down and looked like she was in extreme pain. Ning Fan's speculation was confirmed. Mu Weiliang really had a great relationship with the female corpse. He closed the lid of the coffin and asked. Is this you? No, it seems like. I don't know. I didn't open the door. I was just waiting for someone. Mu Weiliang's face was filled with fear as if she had seen something extremely terrifying. After a long time, she fainted due to the pain in her head. After closing the lid of the coffin, a faint claw grinding sound came from the green coffin. It made Ning Fan's hair stand on end. He immediately kept the green coffin into the cauldron ring. This time, taking out the female corpse accelerated the transformation of the female corpse. Mu Weiliang fell into Ning Honghong's arms. She looked haggard. After a long time, she woke up. However, she didn't know what had happened before. Who is that female corpse? What is her relationship with Sister Weiliang? Ning Honghong asked worriedly. I don't know. That's why I asked her. Ning Fan frowned slightly. He had confirmed the relationship between Mu Weiliang and the female corpse. He also understood that the female corpse wasn't Mu Weiliang. Her aura didn't seem to be. Moreover, the moment the female corpse turned into a corpse, she revealed the same killing intent towards Mu Weiliang. As for Mei Chen, she was also worried. Merely, she was worried about something else. Brat, that female corpse seems to be turning into a corpse. It's extremely dangerous for you to carry her with you. I can't help it. Master said that I can't abandon a woman that I have slept with. His teasing tone made Mei Chen take 2 steps back in disgust. Judging from Ning Fan's tone, he had slept with the female corpse. Ning Honghong and Mu Weiliang, who had just woken up, blushed. They didn't expect Ning Fan to be such a lawless person. Fine, I will send you 2 off. I have seen the great elder of Purple Clan once. You can also go to Red Clan. I will send you back. No one will make things difficult for you. Parting was always sad, but if there was a chance, Ning Fan could still enter Demon Sinister Forest, right? After the commotion of the female corpse, Mu Weiliang's eyes were slightly evasive. She didn't understand why. Mei Chen's disdain and fear towards Ning Fan increased. She had underestimated Ning Fan. He didn't even spare the female corpse. Of course, he wouldn't spare the little sable either. As for Ning Honghong, she seemed to be deep in thought. She secretly asked Ning Fan for a favor. With your ability, you will be able to move unhindered in Wu Yu in less than 10 years. I have a favor to ask of you. After you leave Demon's sinister forest, can you help me take care of the Ning family in Wu country? Ning Fan didn't know whether to laugh or cry at this request. The old ancestor of his family, Ning Honghong, was asking him to take care of the Ning family. It seemed like he still had some debts to settle with the Ning family. Originally, Ning Fan didn't intend to destroy the Ning family. He only wanted to kill the mastermind. But now, with Ning Honghong's request, it was impossible for him to massacre the Ning family. Suddenly, a bold idea emerged in his mind, but he immediately shook his head and suppressed it. The corpses of the old ancestors of Ning family in Hai Ning seemed to be buried outside the ancestral temple. If he dug out Ning Honghong's corpse, could he resurrect her? Chapter 77. After today, he would leave and no one knew when he would enter the Demon's sinister forest again. Mu Weiliang and Ning Honghong remained silent. As for the little sable, it put its head into Ning Fan's storage pouch to pick some millennium spiritual herbs. She needed a large amount of spiritual herbs to restore her strength. She could only take them from Ning Fan's pouch, right? As long as it wasn't necessary, Ning Fan would let her take whatever she wanted. After all, without the sable's help, it would be impossible for Ning Fan to dominate the third region. From the beginning to the end, this lazy little sable didn't help to kill any ghosts. It only relied on her demonic chi. Is that the aura of a void fragmentation expert? It can suppress the enemy with just the aura alone. Void fragmentation is very strong. Ning Fan's eyes revealed a trace of yearning. One day, he would break through to the void fragmentation realm and become a supreme figure in the Rain Immortal world. The mist in the third region was thicker. As if responding to the atmosphere, it started drizzling. Ning Fan exerted his magical power to stop the raindrops from falling on them. In this atmosphere, the immortal cloud went all the way out of the Red Clan. The moment Ning Fan stepped into the Red Clan, he could hear the sound of alarm coming from all directions. Formation lights lit up one after another. There was even a red-robed old man with a frightened expression. He was leading a dozen late gold core experts. They stood in the sky and looked at Ning Fan as if they were facing a great enemy. Qi Qianli, the red devil of raging flame. He was the old monster that was scared off by Ning Fan's strange means. Little friend Zhou Ming, what brings you to Red Clan today? Qi Qianli laughed dryly. There was a storage pouch in his hand that contained 100 cents beads. As long as Ning Fan asked for them, he would immediately give them to Ning Fan. Fear. He was really afraid of Ning Fan. Red Clan wasn't much stronger than Green Clan. Its defensive formation was far inferior to Green Clan. Qi Qianli didn't think that he could withstand Ning Fan's wrath. Senior Qi, you must be joking. I'm not here to cause trouble today. I'm here to send 2 of your friends back to their clan. I still have to visit the other clans. As soon as Ning Fan's words faded, Ning Honghong and Mu Weiliang flew down from the immortal cloud. Their eyes were slightly red. They flew to Qi Qianli's side. Subordinate Ning Honghong greets Great Elder and Madam Elder. This Qi Qianli is a ruthless killer, but he has a wife who is very kind to the ghosts in his tribe. Compared to the coldness of the Green tribe, the Red tribe is more humane. As for the beautiful woman in red, she was at the late Gold Core realm. She had a kind countenance and usually took good care of Ning Honghong and Mu Weiliang. Along the way, Ning Honghong and Mu Weiliang kept reminding him not to be rude to the Red Clan. Otherwise, with Ning Fan's character, he would have smashed the Dan fragmentation cauldron twice at the Red Clan to steal some benefits. You are Honghong, Weiliang. You're back. When Qi Qianli saw the 2 women, he didn't say anything. However, his wife was already sobbing emotionally and it wasn't an act. It seemed that this Madam Qi had a very deep relationship with the 2 women. Did you save Honghong and Weiliang? How can I thank you? This is just a small gift. Please accept it, young Master Zhou Ming. The beautiful woman in red took off Qi Qianli's storage pouch and passed it to Ning Fan along with her own. She was indescribably grateful. As soon as the storage pouch was taken off, Qi Qianli's facial expression changed dramatically, as if he had swallowed a fly. He had just obtained a peak high-grade magical treasure and countless spiritual herbs. He was preparing to use them to break through to the false nascent realm, but he didn't expect that his wife would give them to someone else. Madam, this little friend Zhou Ming doesn't need any gift. However, as soon as his words came out, the beautiful woman in red glared at him. You talk too much. Compared to Hong Hong and Wei Yang's safety, a few spiritual herbs and magical treasures are nothing. Immediately, Qi Qianli shut his mouth. He who had killed people like Scything Flax didn't dare to anger his wife. Shrew. Henpecked. In an instant, these two words emerged in Ning Fan's mind, making him shake his head and chuckle. This red clan was interesting. No wonder the two girls wanted to come back no matter what. This was Ning Honghong and Mu Weiliang's home after they died. With this beautiful woman in red, the two girls wouldn't be bullied anymore. No need. I have a good relationship with Honghong and Weiliang. I'm just sending them home. There's no need to thank me. Ning Fan gently pushed the two storage pouches away and gave the two girls a deep look. Then, he carried the small sable and left on the cloud. He didn't say anything else. He had said everything that needed to be said. If he continued, it would only increase the sadness of the two girls. His figure gradually disappeared in the dark fog of the demon-sinister forest. It was hard to see him clearly. All of a sudden, the figure used his magical power to disperse the dark fog. He stood on the peak of a green mountain and cupped his fists at the two girls from 10 li away. I'll be back. In an instant, whether it was the shy Mu Weiliang or the soft Ning Honghong, both of their eyes reddened. Would he be back? The figure that sent them off would be unforgettable and engraved in their minds. Mountains and rivers cupped their fists and smiled. He was so carefree. Gradually, the red-robed woman seemed to have noticed something from the expressions of the two girls. She sighed slightly. Naturally, she sighed because the two heavenly geniuses of the Red Clan had fallen in love with the same young man at the same time. As for Qi Qianli, he was overjoyed when he saw that Ning Fan didn't accept the storage pouch. He took the pouch from his wife and tied it around his waist. His impression of Ning Fan had reached its peak for the first time. That young friend Zhou Ming is a good man. I'm very grateful that he didn't rob my storage pouch. After leaving the Red Clan, Ning Fan went straight to the Purple Clan. After the two girls left, there was only a man and a sable left on the immortal cloud. Little Martin, who was in his embrace, asked with a puzzled expression. With your personality of not getting up early without benefits, it's really rare that you didn't snatch anything and didn't accept gifts. Rare? Ning Fan smiled faintly. His finger gently poked a certain part of the small sable's body. And it went half an inch in. For a moment, the small sable was extremely embarrassed. She wanted to bite Ning Fan's palm, but she was afraid that she would hurt Ning Fan. Shameless. Shameless. Is that so? This is my first time touching a void fragmentation female's body. And it's no different from an ordinary woman. This finger only went half an inch in. Consider it a punishment for mocking me. Bah! How dare you punish me? Do you really think that I'm your demon pet? Wait until I recover my cultivation base. Her tone was fierce, but there was no killing intent. It was just an act. Ning Fan's shameless image in the small sable's heart rose infinitely for the first time. She angrily said, I really want to see what kind of master can teach such a shameless disciple like you. My master's shamelessness is unparalleled in the 4 heavens and 9 worlds. One day, you might be able to meet him. As they chatted and laughed, the man and the sable arrived in the sky above the Purple Clan. This time, there was no clamor. There was only the usual defensive light of the spell formation, and an old fisherman stepped into the sky to welcome them. Chu Chen. He looked deeply at Ning Fan with a slightly surprised expression. He thought that he had never underestimated Ning Fan, but after hearing that Ning Fan single-handedly annihilated the Azure clan and rampaged in the third region, he couldn't help but be shocked. Seeing the small sable in Ning Fan's arms, Mei Chen, the old man's expression turned solemn. He knelt down in the sky. Sinner Chu Chen greets Emperor Lan. Dispense with the formalities. The small sable's voice was cold and noble. It made Ning Fan feel a sense of unfamiliarity. She jumped out of Ning Fan's arms and wrapped Ning Fan's clothes. Then, she transformed into a luxurious woman in a white robe. Ning Fan's robe, on her body, added a sense of masculinity to her coquettish appearance. Her eyes were calm yet imposing. This kind of pressure made Ning Fan slightly startled. Is this the real small sable? Her beauty was unparalleled in the world. Her cultivation base was shocking. She was cold and aloof. There was a reason for the crime of betrayal that day. Although the death penalty can be avoided, the punishment cannot be avoided. Chu Chen, cut off one of your fingers. As soon as her indifferent words fell, Chu Chen immediately patted his storage pouch, took out a dagger magical treasure and cut off his left little finger. There was no trace of resentment. Instead, there was a long sigh of relief. Chu Chen knew Mei Chen's temper in the past. Those who betrayed her would either die or be crippled of their cultivation base. He didn't expect that he would only cut off one finger. Since when did Mei Chen become so tolerant? His eyes fell on Ning Fan. Could it be that Mei Chen's change was brought about by this young man? Chu Chen could never imagine how Ning Fan trained Mei Chen. This matter was too erotic. He thought that Ning Fan wouldn't tell anyone about it. You can go now. You don't have to worry about me. Mei Chen walked gracefully and landed on Purple Clan. Her words were cold, but the moment she turned around, Ning Fan noticed that her shoulders slightly trembled. You sure act well. He smiled faintly and turned to leave, disappearing into the mist. Just as Ning Fan was about to leave, Mei Chen suddenly turned around and warned him through divine sense. Be careful of Bone Emperor. His incarnation might not be able to find you. Perhaps, he will send his true body and soul to chase after you. Is that so? If he sends his true body and soul here, I will let his soul suffer a good injury. It will also solve some problems for you. Ning Fan's heart warmed as he replied. He wasn't afraid of Bone Emperor's soul. Bone Emperor was powerful because of his bones. His soul was soft. Should he use soul burning technique to burn it? Bone Emperor didn't know him. Bone Emperor didn't know his means. Ning Fan might be able to trick Bone Emperor. In the first region, a level 2 vein opening disciple was escaping from a level 3 vein opening ghost. It was a 15 or 16-year-old teenager. He looked ordinary and his robe wasn't luxurious. His name was Wang Yao. He fled to the bottom of a precipice and had nowhere else to go. He looked at the ghost that was chasing him and its bloody mouth, revealing a look of despair. The ghost was getting closer and closer. Wang Yao's legs trembled and he fell to the ground. But right at this moment, a strand of soul force that was translucent like a thread came out of nowhere and sank into the top of the youth's head. The teenager screamed and died. But the next moment, the corpse stood up blankly. The moment the corpse stood up, the level 3 vein opening ghost seemed to have seen something unbelievable and instinctively showed a terrified expression. Humph! A vein opening ghost dares to attack me? Courting death. The corpse sneered and pointed out with a finger. The white bone light struck the ghost, causing it to let out a blood-curdling screech before disintegrating into ashes. The corpse's divine sense swept out and everything within 10 miles was clear to him. Hee, I will send a strand of my true soul to this teenager's body. I will find the madman who hurt my incarnation and kill him. A strand of Bone Emperor's true soul actually descended on Wang Yao's body and killed him. Didn't this mean that Bone Emperor's body could leave the demon sinister forest? First, I will eat some little ghosts to restore my peak gold core magical power. Wang Yao's eyes flickered. In a flash, he disappeared into the forest and swept through the first and second regions. Chapter 78. Not only Sinister Sparrow's sect, but all the experts in Yu country were staring at him. They didn't believe it. They didn't believe that Ning Fan could get 2 million contribution points just by killing one ghost. They didn't believe it. They didn't believe that Ning Fan could get more than 15 million contribution points by killing more gold core ghosts. There must be something wrong with the merit and virtue monument. Countless old monsters were waiting outside the demon sinister forest. They were waiting for Ning Fan to reveal the answer to them. They wouldn't believe it unless they saw him with their own eyes. They didn't believe that a weak cultivation country like Yu country could produce such a heaven-defying figure. An intermediate harmonious spirit expert at the age of 17 was too heaven-defying. If he could really kill nearly 1,000 gold core ghosts, he alone would be enough to sweep the entire Yu country. This was ridiculous. Every disciple who walked out of the demon sinister forest was lucky. When they entered the forest, there were more than 160 disciples. But when they came out, only 75 of them were alive. Even the deacon disciples who were responsible for the safety of the disciples died in the forest. Once they left the forest, they would be considered to have completed the assessment and officially become an outer disciple. Young boys and girls with tattered clothes and bloodstains on their faces walked out of the formation light. Before they could rejoice, their faces were filled with shock. They found that there were hundreds of harmonious spirit and gold core old monsters waiting outside the demon sinister forest. The chi field of hundreds of old monsters was so strong that it shook people's hearts. None of the disciples could remain calm in front of these old monsters. What's going on? Why are so many famous demons gathering in Sinister Sparrow sect? Li Jihuan's expression changed dramatically as soon as he came out of the grand formation. It wasn't that he didn't have harmonious spirit old monsters in his family, but it was his first time seeing hundreds of harmonious spirit old monsters gathered in one place. As for gold core old monsters, they weren't people that a small Li family could associate with. It was even rarer for him to see them. He was nervous as he went to the medicine handing elder to hand over the spirit herbs in exchange for contribution points. Name, how many spiritual herbs? The elder in charge of the payment was Meng Jiqiu, the outer sect elder of Sinister Sparrow sect. His tone was slightly absent-minded. Li Jihuan, hand over 200 kilograms of spirit herbs, Li Jihuan replied rather conceitedly. 200 caddies of 10-year-old spiritual herbs were enough to exchange for 10 contribution points. Moreover, he had obtained 91 contribution points from killing the ghosts. Adding them all together, he had more than 100 contribution points. If not for his injuries in the demon sinister forest, Li Jihuan was confident that he could get more points. However, he firmly believed that with so many contributions, it was enough to attract the attention of the sect. My contribution might not be as good as Lu Ziqiao because he has a heaven-defying item like the soul refining streamer, but it shouldn't be much different from Ning Fan because he's cultivating the dual cultivation technique. However, to Li Jihuan's surprise, Elder Meng only nodded lightly at Li Jihuan's 101 contribution points and praised him, not bad. Impossible. My contribution is considered as a genius in the history of Sinister Sparrow sect. Why does Elder Meng treat me so coldly? His heart was slightly unbalanced, thinking that there must be some conflict between Elder Meng and his clan. Li Jihuan misunderstood Elder Meng. He had stayed in the demon sinister forest for a month. He didn't know that Ning Fan had appeared in the outside world and obtained 15 million contribution points. In front of this amount of contribution points, a mere 100 points wasn't shocking at all. After registering his contribution points, Li Jihuan turned around and saw Lu Ziqiao who came to register his contribution points. Lu Ziqiao was wearing his usual smile, his gloomy expression was nowhere to be seen. Greetings, Brother Lu. May I know how many contribution points Brother Lu has obtained? Humph. Anyway, it's more than you. Lu Ziqiao was still arrogant. If Li Zhihuan was a genius that appeared once in 10 years, then he was a genius that appeared once in 100 years. He had the right to be arrogant. Lu Ziqiao had seen how Li Zhihuan was treated coldly by Elder Meng. A mere 101 contribution points was nothing to Lu Ziqiao. Name, how many spiritual herbs have you submitted? Elder Meng's tone was still absent-minded. Lu Ziqiao, 23 stalks of century-old spiritual herbs plus the ghosts you killed. A total of 1,423 contribution points. Lu Ziqiao curled his lips. He believed that his contribution points were enough to scare Elder Meng. Moreover, he had submitted century-old spiritual herbs. It went without saying that he had entered the second region. He believed that even Ning Fan, who had a strong background, and Li Zhihuan, who cultivated the body-seizing evil art, wouldn't dare to enter the second region. But out of his expectation, Elder Meng was only slightly startled when he saw the century-old spiritual herb submitted by Lu Ziqiao. Then, he regained his composure and shook his head. Not bad. 1423 contribution points. If it was in the previous years, you would be regarded as a genius. Unfortunately, that person is here this time. No one will pay attention to you. Elder Meng's words made Lu Ziqiao and Li Zhihuan's heart shudder. 101 contribution points wasn't enough to make Elder Meng look favorably at him. However, 1423 contribution points still wasn't enough to make Elder Meng look favorably at him. This was too strange. Moreover, Elder Meng's words seemed to have a hidden meaning. With that person's presence, his 1423 contribution points wouldn't be shocking. Who was that person? Could it be that that person had obtained a higher contribution points? Lu Ziqiao was puzzled. Then, he saw a gray-robed young man with a pale face like a corpse walking out of the formation light. Lu Ziqiao remembered the name of this young man. It seemed that his name was Wang Yao. It wasn't because Wang Yao was powerful, but because Wang Yao's background caught his attention. The Wang clan of Eastern Yu could be considered as a powerful cultivation clan. However, this Wang Yao had a hint of gloomy qi which made Lu Ziqiao's heart and soul shiver. Strange, why did I feel a trace of fear towards this Wang Yao? Immediately, Wang Yao's expression was cold as he walked towards Elder Meng and handed over the spiritual herbs. Name, how many spiritual herbs have you handed over? This time, Elder Meng seemed to pay more attention, but there was still no fiery expression on his face. Wang Yao, handed over a 500 years old spiritual herb, plus the ghosts that you have killed, a total of 31,855 contribution points. Wang Yao's voice was extremely cold. His words made many disciples and harmonious spirit old monsters suck in a breath of cold air. This Wang Yao's rise was extremely unexpected. In the previous month, he only had 7 contribution points, which meant that he barely killed 2 first-level vein-opening ghosts. But on the last day, Wang Yao went on a rampage and obtained more than 30,000 contribution points. No one knew how many harmonious spirit ghosts he had killed. This kid can't be underestimated. But, he is still not as good as that Ning Fan. Elder Meng took a deep breath and became polite to Wang Yao. This Wang Yao had the strength to kill harmonious spirit experts. Even a late harmonious spirit expert like Elder Meng couldn't ignore him. After handing over the spiritual herbs, Wang Yao didn't seem to have any desire to strike up a conversation with others. Even when facing a harmonious spirit expert, he remained indifferent. His eyes drifted around as if he was looking for someone among the disciples. That person, who is he? To be able to kill my clone, I'm afraid that he is at least a peak harmonious spirit expert. Plus, this person must be one of the disciples in the trial. Wang Yao thought to himself. Wang Yao's contribution points made Lu Ziqiao and Li Zhihuan dumbfounded and in disbelief. Lu Ziqiao remembered that Wang Yao was only a second-level vein-opening cultivator. How could he obtain 30,000 contribution points? Wang Yao must have killed at least 100 harmonious spirit ghosts to obtain so many contribution points. This Wang Yao has hidden his strength so deeply. What is his cultivation? He must have caused a great commotion by obtaining so many contribution points. It seems like these harmonious spirit and gold core seniors are here to see him. Lu Ziqiao pondered, but to his surprise, only a few old monsters showed interest in Wang Yao's appearance. Most of the experts were still staring at the formation light in the direction of the demon sinister forest as if they were waiting for someone. All of a sudden, an absurd thought emerged in Lu Ziqiao's mind. Could it be that there was a youth who was more powerful than Wang Yao in the demon sinister forest? That was the reason why these old monsters didn't pay attention to Wang Yao. Wang Yao had already obtained 30,000 contribution points. How much contribution points would the youth who was more powerful than Wang Yao get? Who is it? At this moment, not only Lu Ziqiao and Li Zhihuan, but also the other disciples who had just left the forest realized that there must be someone extraordinary among this batch of disciples who was even more powerful than Wang Yao. That was the reason why so many old monsters were looking at him with fiery eyes. Who was that person? Could it be him? The image of a white-clothed and black-cloaked youth emerged in Lu Ziqiao's mind, but he immediately shook his head in disbelief. Lu Ziqiao believed that Ning Fan had a strong background, but he didn't think that Ning Fan's dual cultivation technique would have a high combat strength. No, the one who surpassed Wang Yao is definitely not Ning Fan. Lu Ziqiao's eyes were fixed on the direction of the demon sinister forest, waiting for an absurd answer that he didn't want to believe. Under the eager gaze of the crowd, a youth in white and black cloak finally walked out of the formation light. Each of his steps was heavy as if he was taking a stroll in the garden like a young master next door. However, his indifferent eyes and gestures were filled with an indescribable charm. The moment the young man appeared, the hundreds of experts present, as long as they had sword-type magic treasures on them, all experienced a strange situation. Everyone's long swords began to tremble lightly. They seemed to be excited, awed and trembling. For the first time, Meng Zhiqiu, who didn't smile in front of Li Zhihuan, Lu Ziqiao, and even Wang Yao, stood up for the first time with an excited expression. He cupped his fists at Ning Fan respectfully and even left the registration desk to welcome Ning Fan with a smile. Hee, little friend Ning, you've made me wait for a long time. I wonder if little friend Ning has submitted the spiritual herbs. No. Ning Fan smiled faintly. Although he said that he didn't, there was an inconspicuous 3-zhang white stone beside the registration desk that was as smooth as a mirror. Suddenly, a white light flashed on the surface of the stone. The medicine testing mirror stone shone. It was said that the stone would only shine when it sensed a large number of 1,000-year-old spiritual herbs. Without a doubt, Ning Fan must have a large number of 1,000-year-old spiritual herbs. What kind of benefits did he obtain in the demon sinister forest? Meng Zhiqiu wouldn't ask any of this. Since Ning Fan wasn't willing to submit the spiritual herbs, he would naturally turn a blind eye to it. So, little friend Ning, are you going to register your final contribution points? Yes. Thank you, Elder. Then, I hereby announce that Ning Fan has become the first disciple in the history of Sinister Sparrow sect with 15 million contribution points. According to the sect master's order, the moment Ning Fan left the demon sinister forest, he will be promoted to an elder. What? 15 million contribution points. He was promoted to an elder as soon as he joined the sect. Lu Ziqiao took a few steps back before he could stabilize his body. He looked at Ning Fan in disbelief. Not only Lu Ziqiao, but all the other disciples who didn't know Ning Fan's contribution points were dumbfounded and ashamed. Except for Wang Yao. This person's eyes turned cold, as if he had immediately confirmed one thing. Chapter 80. The night was quiet. After a month of killing, Ning Fan's nerves were always tense, making him extremely tired. He was lazily lying in the wooden tub, soaking in the flower petal bathwater prepared by Bai Xiu. The petal was called Jade Birth Sandalwood. It could relieve the fatigue of cultivators and was extremely precious. Even ordinary harmonious spirit old monsters couldn't afford to use it. He didn't expect Bai Xiu to prepare such an expensive bathwater for him. It seemed that his status in the sect had risen to an unprecedented height because of the 15 million contribution points. Fortunately, no one believed that Ning Fan could kill a gold core old monster. Unfortunately, most of them accepted Ning Fan's identity as the #1 expert below the gold core realm and called him a harmonious spirit assassin. Becoming famous at a young age would eventually be burdened by fame. Ning Fan began to understand the meaning of this sentence. Now that he was under the watchful eyes of the public, he couldn't hide what he wanted to do. If I can find some spirit refining grass and learn the first art of the divine art, false art of divine art, I'll be able to disguise my appearance and identity with my peak gold core divine sense. Unless it's a nascent soul expert, no one would be able to see through my disguise. In this way, I'll be able to steal the black Yin Chi or kill people with another identity in front of everyone. His eyes turned cold. He naturally wouldn't forget the revenge of extreme Yin Gate. If it wasn't because he knew the art of divination and predicted that there would be an ambush, he would have been killed by extreme Yin Gate despite his astonishing strength. Ning Fan gently exhaled, calmed his mind and immersed his head in the bathwater. Silence. In the sinister Sparrow sect, in the deacon hall, a gray-robed deacon disciple gently walked out of the door, looked up at the moonlight in the night sky, and a sneer appeared on his deathly pale face that was as cold as a corpse. He was Wang Yao. Ning Fan, huh? Let me confirm if it's your doing. Ning Fan said. He performed an incantation gesture and his palm turned into a white bone claw. In a split second, a jade-like rib in Ning Fan's storage pouch glowed faintly. It's really him. Good, very good. As soon as this wisp of my true soul breaks through to the nascent soul stage in the mortal realm, I'll crush you mercilessly. Wang Yao sneered coldly. His expressionless face returned to normal, and the profound light beneath his feet flickered. He turned into a streak of white bone light, and flew out of the inner sect unimpeded. This method was simply unimaginable. And tonight, in the state of Yu, 3 cultivation clans were exterminated. No one knew that this was all Wang Yao's doing. Wang Yao, no, Bone Emperor's clone, was trying to recover his nascent soul realm strength as soon as possible. This was because he found out that there were many gold core experts in Sinister Sparrow sect in Yu country. Without a nascent soul cultivation base, he wasn't sure that he could kill Ning Fan in front of everyone. A trace of uneasiness rose in Ning Fan's heart. He sensed something and got out of the bathtub naked. He waved his hand and took the storage pouch into his hand. Seeing the white bones quietly lying inside the pouch, he revealed a puzzled expression. Was it an illusion? No, just in case, I'll perform a divination. He pinched his fingers and calculated. A moment later, he revealed an expression of shock and anger. However, within the shock and anger, there was also confusion. With this, he divined that someone was plotting against him, but he couldn't divine the identity of that person. It seemed that the person's cultivation base was far beyond his. That was why he couldn't divine everything about that person with his magical power. Ning Fan took a deep breath. His eyes glinted with cold light. He put on his robe, took out a piece of bone and muttered to himself. Bone Emperor, is that you? Among Ning Fan's enemies, the one whose strength was far stronger than him was Bone Emperor in the 7th region of Demon Sinister Forest and Moksha Emperor, the God Emperor of the Demon World. Moksha Emperor wouldn't be able to reach Rain Immortal World within 100 years, and Bone Emperor wouldn't be able to leave Demon Sinister Forest either. However, Ning Fan still felt uneasy. It's better to be careful. I can't keep this bone in the storage pouch for the time being. He waved his palm and kept the white bone into his cauldron ring. In the next moment, Wang Yao, who was massacring the cultivators in the night, said disdainfully with a cold expression. Humph. What a vigilant kid. I've only used the bone-searching technique and it has already aroused his vigilance. However, you definitely don't know that I'm Wang Yao, you still won't be able to escape death. The uneasiness made Ning Fan lose the mood to take a bath. He realized that he couldn't be careless even if he left Demon Sinister Forest. He needed strength to cure the old monster. He needed strength to defeat Moksha Emperor. He also needed strength to ascend to the four heavens immortal world and fight with countless descendants of fiend gods and devils. 100 years later, he needed to have the strength to fight against Moksha Emperor. There's no time to waste. Tomorrow, I'll go to the main hall of the sect to entertain those old things, then I'll concoct the consolidating spirit pill and break through to the peak of harmonious spirit realm. One could break through to the peak of harmonious spirit realm by swallowing pills, but it was extremely difficult to reach the false core realm and the gold core realm. Ning Fan had the enlightenment of an immortal emperor, so there was no bottleneck to speak of, but he still needed at least 10 years to break through to the gold core realm. This was cultivation. Even though Ning Fan had countless shortcuts, he still couldn't reach the sky in a single step. He sat cross-legged on the bed. The scent of Bing Ling and Yu Ling still lingered in his nose, carrying a hint of virgin fragrance. Ning Fan didn't care about it. His state of mind was as steady as a rock. The yin-yang transformation could greatly improve one's state of mind. After all, the most important aspect of dual cultivation was a steady will. If he wanted to use the bewitching technique on others, he must first not be afraid of it. He adjusted his magical power and circulated it. Even if the effect was weak, he didn't want to waste his cultivation time. But at this moment, his eyes suddenly opened, as if he had sensed something. The spirit realm grand formation in the courtyard moved. Someone had come in, and there were quite a few of them. Reckless, the corner of his mouth curved into a cold smile. The grand formation he had set up wasn't a defensive formation, but a scouting formation. Except for Bai Xiu, no one would be able to tell that he had set up a formation. The people who came were a group of women. Each of them had a charming appearance, but each of their eyes was flashing with a cold light like that of a snake or scorpion. The leading woman was a girl in a green silk dress. Her appearance was somewhat similar to Bai Xiu, but compared to her, she was more radiant. Bai Lu. An early harmonious spirit female disciple in the dual cultivation palace who dared to murder the previous elders. Sister, how should we deal with this Ning Fan? A black-clothed woman who looked to be in her late 20s asked with a cold expression. Hee, should we kill him or keep him for our younger sisters to play with? Another woman in a purple veil said with a frivolous smile. Both of them were at level 10 vein opening, which was enough to be a deacon disciple in Sinister Sparrow sect, but they were willing to stay in the dual cultivation palace to serve Bai Lu. Bai Lu snapped her fingers. Immediately, a rather well-built woman knelt on the ground. Bai Lu sat lazily on the woman's back, rubbing the woman's buttocks with her bare hands, revealing a covetous and fiery look. Yun Er, your little buttocks are getting fatter, sister, don't laugh at Yun Er. Yun Er will be sister's woman for the rest of my life. The woman who was being sat by Bai Lu seemed to enjoy Bai Lu's action of rubbing her buttocks. Huang Ling, bring a few of your sisters to entertain this new elder. Bai Lu pondered for a moment and finally said lightly. As soon as she gave the order, 5 charming yellow-clothed women walked towards Ning Fan's room, pushed the door open and entered. Apart from the 5 yellow-clothed women, all of them were virgins. They were obviously cultivating the dual cultivation method, but their primordial yin was still intact. How could they have dual cultivation? Ning Fan was slightly startled. He retracted his spirit sense and revealed a pensive look. He could feel that the 5 yellow-clothed women had entered his room. It seemed like these 5 women were the culprits who had plucked countless male disciples and elders to death. Interesting, treating the dual cultivation palace as your own kingdom, using only 5 level 10 vein opening demonesses to pluck me? Aren't you looking down on me too much? Ning Fan sneered in his heart, but his expression remained unchanged. He was still sitting cross-legged on the bed. The 5 women entered the room and began to take off their clothes. Their clothes fell to the ground, revealing their naked bodies like 5 white lambs. They panted softly towards Ning Fan. Yo! Elder Ning, do you want to have some fun with us 5 sisters? The 5 women's words seemed to have casted an extremely powerful bewitching technique. Even Ning Fan's peak gold core spirit sense trembled for a moment. No wonder these 5 women could pluck harmonious spirit old monsters with a mere vein-opening cultivation. It turned out that their bewitching technique was this powerful. Unfortunately, no matter how powerful their bewitching technique was, it was still inferior to Ning Fan. Using bewitching technique in front of Ning Fan was simply displaying one's slight skill in front of an expert. Ning Fan's face was filled with mockery. He flicked his fingers and the een-plucking finger flew out. In just a moment, the 5 women were struck by the een-plucking finger at the same time. Their magical powers stagnated and their chi was in chaos. Their hearts were at a loss, leaving only the desire to have sex. Bai Lu, you're so considerate. I have just arrived and you've already given me 5 cauldrons. Although they aren't virgins, I don't mind if it's just plucking. Ning Fan's sneer and the 5 women's painful moans fell into Bai Lu's ears. All of a sudden, she stood up with a face full of disbelief. Impossible. Huang Ling and her sisters cultivate the remnant of a certain gold core realm bewitching technique. Even a peak harmonious spirit old monster might not be able to resist this bewitching technique. How could you resist it? Her mind was in a mess. If Ning Fan really plucked the women, it would undoubtedly be like cutting a knife into her heart. They are my cauldrons. How are you going to enjoy them? Humph. In a flash, Bai Lu dashed into the house. She patted the storage pouch on her waist and a long sword appeared in her hand. She then thrust it at Ning Fan. Unfortunately, when the woman's long sword was facing Ning Fan, it actually trembled slightly. Ning Fan's sharp gaze pierced it and the dignified low-grade high-rank magical treasure was shattered into pieces by his gaze. Ning Fan's sea of consciousness had condensed into sword consciousness. Currently, he could almost be considered as the Emperor of Swords. Ordinary treasured swords were not even qualified to be swung in front of him. Shattering the long sword with just a gaze was completely out of Bai Lu's expectation. She lost her sense of propriety. She wanted to retreat, but Ning Fan leaped up and used an icy rainbow to approach her. Then, he pointed his een-plucking finger at her. Ning Fan didn't have the slightest bit of tenderness towards the fairer sex. He used all his strength and poked Bai Lu's chest, causing her to let out a soft cry of pain. But immediately, her rationality was overwhelmed by the een-plucking finger. An unbearable feeling rose in her heart, causing her to reveal a shocked and angry expression. How dare you use bewitching technique on me? You have to understand that you are a disciple and I am an elder of Dual Cultivation Palace. If you send someone to pluck me, I can do the same to you. Ning Fan revealed a cold expression. He flicked his finger repeatedly and threw Bai Lu, who was now limp, onto the bed. His soft-hearted heart was only reserved for a few people. Against his enemies, his heart was harder than a rock. What do you want to do to me? Bai Lu was a little scared. Although she had sexual intercourse with other women, she was still a virgin. She had a vague feeling that Ning Fan wouldn't let her go so easily. Meeting Ning Fan's cold gaze, Bai Lu felt fear and powerlessness for the first time in her life. She had reached the harmonious spirit realm, but she didn't even have the strength to fight back against Ning Fan. The een-plucking finger gradually took effect, causing her to lose her consciousness. Those who hurt others would be hurt by others. Since she wanted to harm Ning Fan, he wouldn't let her go. It was already midnight when Ning Fan put on his clothes. He pushed the door open and went out. Bai Lu was lying on the bed like a pile of mud. Her face was flushed. Huang Ling and the other 4 girls had fainted on the floor. None of the female disciples dared to enter the room. Ning Fan's murderous intent was too terrifying. A few of them wanted to rush in, but they fainted under Ning Fan's murderous intent. From today onwards, you, Bai Lu, will be my 18th cauldron. Ning Fan said plainly. Damn it. I've fallen into your hands this time. Bai Lu couldn't help but clench her teeth in regret. She was used to being arrogant in Dual Cultivation Palace, but this was the first time she was bullied. I don't care whether you are willing or not when I take my cauldron. Remember, you have attacked me once, but there won't be a second time. This time, I will spare your life. Next time, huh? Ning Fan threatened in an indifferent tone. Chapter 82. The morning light was faint and intoxicating. In the valley of Sinister Sparrow Sect's inner sect, a young man was treading on the fallen leaves and yellow soil. He was walking towards the main palace of the sect, the Long Inclination Palace. It was quiet and peaceful. This place was obviously a paradise. No one could tell that this was an evil sect from the outside. If this young man didn't have an elder's jade pendant on his waist, no one would be able to recognize him. He was the most popular figure in Sinister Sparrow Sect, the elder of Dual Cultivation Palace, Ning Fan. He was still dressed in a white robe and a black cloak, but there was an additional jade pendant on his waist. At the end of the road, outside the forest, the Long Inclination Palace gradually emerged. It was a palace carved out of pink jade with an extraordinary formation light. As soon as Ning Fan appeared, 4 deacon disciples who were guarding the door saluted respectfully. Greetings, Elder Ning. Outside the palace, under an old parasol tree, a blue-robed lady floated to Ning Fan's front. She seemed to have been waiting for Ning Fan outside the palace for a long time. There was a hint of bitterness on her cold face. There were dark circles around her beautiful eyes. It seemed like she didn't sleep well yesterday. Ning Fan, why didn't you come to find me last night? Lan Mei's tone was strange. Those who didn't know would think that they were lovers flirting. Oh. Why did I look for you? Dual cultivation? Ning Fan stopped and nodded to the deacon disciple as a return greeting. He looked at Lan Mei and revealed a teasing expression. Bah, you're not serious at all. Of course, it's to treat my illness. Ah yes, that matter. You don't have to worry about it. Because of the sect examination, I haven't finished concocting the pill. I'll find you later and help you heal that part of your body. Ning Fan smiled faintly. He had a good impression of Lan Mei. If Lan Mei didn't give him the map of Demon Sinister Forest, he would have encountered many dangers. He could treat her lower body, and even marry her was not out of the question. Although Lan Mei was a little spoiled, it wasn't unbearable. Bah, even if you're fine, you can still come to see me. Why do I smell a woman's rouge on you? Lan Mei was acting like a little girl when she suddenly frowned. She could faintly smell a woman's fragrance from Ning Fan's body. Because I'm practicing a dual cultivation method. Ning Fan stopped smiling and his expression turned serious. He did not explain further, nor did he hide anything. This short sentence had already explained many things. Obviously, Ning Fan had plucked that girl. Lan Mei's heart tightened. Unknowingly, she realized that she would feel very upset when she heard that Ning Fan plucked other women. She didn't understand why she felt so upset. She lowered her head and asked in a low voice, "Is it a female disciple of the Dual Cultivation Palace?" Yes, she wanted to pluck me, but I plucked her instead. If that's the case, actually, you don't have to cultivate dual cultivation. Sinister Sparrow Sect actually has a lot of advanced cultivation techniques. With your talent, if you cultivate other cultivation techniques, before she could finish her words, Ning Fan's helpless voice interrupted her. With my talent, if I don't cultivate this technique, I won't be able to protect anything after 100 years. I have no other choice. My enemy is too powerful. I'm sorry. Ning Fan's eyes were a little apologetic. This was the first time he apologized to Lan Mei. As for Lan Mei, she was like a frightened little bird, at a loss of what to do. No, you don't have to apologize to me. What you did with that girl has nothing to do with me. Isn't your wife Shiha? Alright, I'll bring you into the palace. There are many experts waiting for you inside. Although Lan Mei said that she didn't mind, her words were as sour as old vinegar. However, Ning Fan wouldn't give up the yin-yang transformation just because of this. If he wanted to gain strength, he had to pay the price. His reputation would never be good for the rest of his life. No one could make all the women in the world fall in love with him. Therefore, Ning Fan's path of plucking the world would be filled with killing. If he couldn't get it, he could only snatch it. If he couldn't snatch it, he could only rob it by force. This was the Tao of evil. In the long inclination palace, Sinister Sparrow was sitting on the main seat. He was wearing a bright yellow brocade robe, looking rather elegant. Below him were the experts of Sinister Sparrow's sect. On the guest seat, the leader was a woman with honey-colored skin from the western region. She was wearing a lake green Taoist robe. The hem of her skirt was layered with delicate and complicated patterns. She was wearing a wide-sleeved top. She looked cold and silent. This woman was one of the supreme elders of the Great Void sect. She was a peak gold core expert. Her name was Suqiu Xianzi. As for the other experts of the outer sect, there was the sect master of Guyu sect, one of the top 10 experts of Yu country, Qin Ziyu. Yes, he was the stingy old man who begged Ning Fan to appraise the blood rust. In the history of Sinister Sparrow sect, there had never been a time when they received so many experts of the same Tao in Yu country at the same time. Sinister Sparrow sect naturally didn't dare to be negligent. Both the host and the guest were having a discussion. Their topics were all about cultivation. None of them mentioned Ning Fan at all. It seemed like these experts had other purposes besides asking about the contribution points in Demon Sinister Forest. When Ning Fan and Lan Mei entered the Long Inclination Palace, all the old experts felt a chill in their hearts. The young man they had been waiting for was finally here. The corner of Bai Feideng's eyes shrunk when he saw Ning Fan. He was secretly shocked. Ning Fan's every step was calm and composed. He wasn't intimidated by the aura of the old experts. However, when Ning Fan appeared, the natal magical treasure in Bai Feideng's storage pouch, the myriad soul banner, which contained tens of thousands of ghosts, started to tremble. They were actually afraid of Ning Fan. Because Ning Fan had killed too many ghosts, his body exuded a trace of murderous qi that only ghosts could sense. There's something strange about this kid. Bai Feideng's face turned pale. Could it be that Ning Fan had some kind of powerful treasure that could restrain ghosts? Or could it be that Ning Fan had used that mysterious magical treasure to kill countless gold core ghosts? If this was true, then the magical treasure that could kill gold core ghosts must be of a very high grade and worth a lot. Could it be that only nascent soul cultivators could afford a supreme grade magical treasure? Bai Feideng was right. Ning Fan had two magical treasures with him. They were both supreme grade magical treasures. One was the Eastern Ocean Bell and the other was the set of 5 peak high-grade flying swords. If I can seize his magical treasures, as soon as this thought arose, it turned into a trace of greed. He couldn't suppress it anymore. Evil cultivators didn't need to hide their greed. Sinister Sparrow sect seemed to have an order that allowed the elders to compete for treasures. Duel. The elder who proposed the duel could ask for a magical treasure from the other party and take out a magical treasure of the same value as the bet. If he won, he would get the magical treasure of the other party. If he lost, he would lose his bet. Bai Feideng didn't pay attention to Ning Fan anymore. He immediately made up his mind. Once the crowd dispersed, he would propose a duel to Ning Fan. Ning Fan didn't know what Bai Feideng was thinking. He didn't even know that he had attracted the attention of such an old expert the moment he joined the sect. Even if he knew, he wouldn't put Bai Feideng in his heart. He had killed hundreds of intermediate gold core experts in the Demon Sinister Forest. He cupped his fists and smiled calmly. The elder of Sinister Sparrow sect, Ning Fan, greets the fellow Taoists of Yu country. His tone was on the same level as the old experts in the hall, but no one felt that it was inappropriate. On the other hand, Ning Fan's calmness and composure did not have the slightest hint of pretense, which made many old monsters secretly sigh in admiration. The young experts like Bai Bai and Yan Zhueyun had the most complicated feelings. Ning Fan was younger than them, but his name was too famous. Few people in Yu country didn't know his name. As for Qin Ziyu of ancient Yu sect, he was one of the experts who had a deeper understanding of Ning Fan. He had already seen Ning Fan's gold core murderous intent in the Dao fruit auction. Now that he saw Ning Fan's late harmonious spirit cultivation base, he wasn't surprised at all. However, he regretted that he was too stingy to build a good relationship with Ning Fan just because of a few immortal jades. It was really a pity. Everyone used their spirit sense to probe Ning Fan's background, but to no avail. They couldn't find anything wrong with Ning Fan. Only the old ancestor of Great Void sect, Suqiu Xianzi, a beautiful old expert who had lived for nearly 1,000 years, raised her eyebrows and released her spirit sense. When her peak gold core spirit sense touched Ning Fan's body, she faintly felt a stab of pain. She hastily retracted her spirit sense. Her beautiful eyes were slightly surprised and revealed a playful expression. Then, as if she was pondering, she grinned and gave Ning Fan a sweet smile. Little friend Ning is really extraordinary. Sinister Sparrow sect has accepted a good disciple. Hiss. Suqiu Xianzi smiled. All the experts in the hall, including Sinister Sparrow, inhaled a breath of cold air and were secretly surprised. Suqiu Xianzi had always been aloof and arrogant. Even when she was facing a late gold core old monster, she would always be blunt and rarely smile. Rumor had it that a young nascent soul expert of the Rain Palace who admired this woman had once spent 100,000 immortal jades to buy a smile from her, but was rejected by her. But she actually smiled at Ning Fan. If that expert of Rain Palace knew about this, he would probably go crazy. Sinister Sparrow chuckled, but there was an unavoidable sense of complacency in his smile. As for the other old experts, they looked at Sinister Sparrow sect with envy when they heard Suqiu Xianzi praising Ning Fan. A smile from Suqiu Xianzi was priceless. Ning Fan really made Sinister Sparrow sect proud this time. Chapter 83. After a few words of greeting, Sinister Sparrow cleared his throat and asked a question that all the old experts were concerned about. Ahem. Elder Ning, I think you know that all of us are doubtful about your contribution points. I don't know if it's convenient for you to explain to us what you did in Demon Sinister Forest and how did you get to 15 million contribution points. Of course, if it's inconvenient for you to explain or there's something that's hard to say, I'm here. No one will be able to force you to tell us if you don't want to. Ning Fan's eyes moved. This question was unavoidable. Just like Wang Yao who obtained 30,000 contribution points in a day, he was also questioned by many elders. And Wang Yao's answer was as follows: before I entered the Demon Sinister Forest, I was at the 10th level of Vein Opening. In the forest, I accidentally felt the bottleneck of Harmonious Spirit Realm and spent a month to break through. After that, I swept through the first and second regions in a day. This answer was accepted by the elders after Wang Yao displayed his early Harmonious Spirit magical power. As for Wang Yao, he had already become a deacon disciple. It was only a matter of time before he was promoted to a Harmonious Spirit Elder. However, it wouldn't be easy for Ning Fan to fool them. After all, he was only a late Harmonious Spirit expert. It was acceptable for him to sweep through Harmonious Spirit ghosts, but no one would believe that a late Harmonious Spirit expert could kill nearly 1,000 gold core ghosts. He couldn't possibly tell them about the Divine Art Chant, Mei Chen, Bone Sovereign and so on. So, he had to fabricate a lie. I poisoned them and killed a lot of gold core old devils. Ning Fan's tone wasn't fake at all. It was extremely serious. What? Poison? What kind of poison could kill 1,000 gold core old devils? Upon hearing Ning Fan's words, all the old experts felt a chill down their spine. It was true that with Ning Fan's late Harmonious Spirit cultivation, it was hard for them to accept that he killed so many ghosts with his own strength. But if it was poison, as long as the level of the poison was high enough, not to mention gold core experts, even nascent soul and spirit severing experts could be poisoned to death. The hearts of the experts shuddered. In an instant, they thought of something. Ning Fan was the great-grandson of a 4th Revolution Dan Master, Black Devil Ning. Could it be that Black Devil Ning had given him a powerful poison pill? I wonder what kind of poison little friend Ning used. An old monster asked with a fearful tone. It's a pill called Yama pill. And it seems to be a fifth revolution poison pill. Ning Fan said in an uncertain tone. What? Fifth revolution poison pill. King Yama's pill. Most of the experts present had heard of the King Yenwang pill before. This pill needed to be refined with the poison pills of 99 nascent soul-level poisonous beasts. The toxicity of one pill was enough to poison a nascent soul-level master to death. If Ning Fans really had this pill, it wouldn't be difficult to poison 1,000 gold core old devils to death. However, only spirit-severing old monsters were qualified to use fifth revolution pills. Even if Ning Fan's great-grandfather was Black Devil Ning, it did not seem like he should have such a pill. Ning Fan added as if he had seen through their doubtful expressions. That pill was given to me by my old ancestor, Black Devil Ning's master. There's only one pill. My old ancestor was worried that I might encounter danger in Demon Sinister Forest, so he gave it to me. Ning Fan's tone was extremely indifferent, but all the old monsters present could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. What? The fifth revolution Dan was given by Black Devil Ning's master. Black Devil Ning had a master. Could it be that he was a fifth revolution Dan master from some high-rank cultivation country? But after thinking about it, all the unreasonable things became reasonable. A high-rank Dan master must have a master. Since Black Devil Ning was a fourth revolution Dan master, it was reasonable for him to have a fifth revolution Dan master as his master. However, if this news was spread out, no one would dare to plot against Ning City anymore. If Black Devil Ning was alone without any background, there would still be people who would plot against him in the dark despite being a fourth revolution Dan master. However, if Black Devil Ning had a mysterious fifth revolution master, perhaps no one in Yu country would dare to offend Ning City anymore. Ning Fan's lie was not only to clear himself of suspicion, but also to fabricate a background for Ning City to deter these old monsters. The old monsters no longer suspected that Ning Fan had killed 1,000 gold core experts, but each of them had a complicated expression on their faces. The dignified fifth revolution Yama pill was a powerful pill that could poison a peak nascent soul expert to death. However, Ning Fan had used it to deal with mere gold core ghosts. It was simply too wasteful. If I have a Yama pill, I will certainly use it to dominate Yu country. Many of the old monsters thought to themselves. However, it was also good that it was wasted. If this pill was kept, it would be a great threat to countless old monsters. If Black Devil Ning had the Yama pill, he could kill all the experts in Yu country with ease. No one would be able to stop him. Purple-Een Old Monster, Great Void Old Ancestor, all of them would be poisoned to death by a single pill. However, it was also possible that Black Devil Ning had a second Yama pill. If that was the case, then Ning City must not be offended. The expressions of the old monsters were different. The only thing they could be sure of was that Ning Fan's lie was believed by all of them. Moreover, no one would dare to deal with Ning Fan unless they were fools. However, in this way, the fear that many of the old monsters had towards Ning Fan had lessened. Ning Fan didn't have the strength to kill gold core old monsters. However, it was highly possible that Ning Fan could defeat all harmonious spirit experts and become the #1 expert below the gold core realm. A late harmonious spirit expert at the age of 17 was indeed worthy of being the #1 expert below the gold core realm in Yu country. After listening to Ning Fan's explanation, all the old monsters felt relieved and returned with satisfaction. After that, they discussed the Tao with Suqiu Xianzi, Sinister Sparrow and other peak gold core experts. Many of them gained some enlightenment. In this way, it ended in a situation where everyone was happy. The only one who sneered at Ning Fan's answer was GMO of Extreme Een Gate. His face didn't change, but in his heart, he was sneering at Ning Fan's explanation. Last time when he returned to Extreme Een Gate and reported Ning Fan's matter to the old ancestor, Purple-Een Old Monster suspected that Ning Fan had kidnapped Bing Ling and Yu Ling and paid a huge price to buy a divination from the old man of Wu country. The divination was naturally about the real culprit who captured the two girls. That old man was an early nascent soul expert. He was known as the divine fortune teller, so he was naturally proficient in divination. However, he had the habit of charging 1,000 jades for each divination. He would charge at least 10,000 immortal jades for each divination. Purple-Ean Old Monster went to Wu country and spent 10,000 immortal jades to divine Ning Fan's matter. The result of this divination was completely out of his expectation. Just as he expected, Bing Ling and Yu Ling were kidnapped by Ning Fan. Apart from Bing Ling and Yu Ling, the other 15 cauldrons had been plucked by Ning Fan. This matter made him furious. He almost wanted to kill Sinister Sparrow sect and eliminate Ning Fan even if he had to risk offending Black Devil Ning. However, the thing that surprised him the most was not the fact that Ning Fan had kidnapped the two ladies. Instead, it was something else. Ning Fan was Black Devil Ning. What a good Ning Fan. The whole Yu country has been deceived by this brat. Black Devil Ning, a 4th Revolution Dan Master, but only a harmonious spirit expert. Ha! Good. Good. Purple-Ean Old Monster immediately sent Old Monster GMO to investigate Ning Fan's background. This time, Old Monster GMO came to confirm one thing. Was Ning Fan a harmonious spirit cultivator? The result surprised and delighted GMO at the same time. He was surprised that Ning Fan had broken through to the late harmonious spirit realm in just 1 month in the Demon Sinister Forest. He was delighted that Ning Fan was really only a harmonious spirit expert. As for the Yama Pill and the 5th Revolution Dan Master, GMO couldn't believe that Ning Fan was Black Devil Ning. There was only one thought in his mind, and that was to report this matter to Purple-Ean. Once he reported this matter, Purple-Ean would be more than happy to wipe out Ning City and kidnap Ning Fan, making Ning Fan his personal Dan Master. Ning Fan naturally didn't know all these. He had no idea that Bai Fading and Old Monster GMO were already plotting against him in the long-leaning palace even though he had not done anything. The former was nothing to worry about, but the latter would put Ji He and the others in danger if they weren't careful. Moreover, there was also Wang Yao in Sinister Sparrow's sect who was plotting against Ning Fan in the dark. At noon, after the spirit fruit banquet in the hall, the old monsters bid farewell and left one after another. Sinister Sparrow heaved a sigh of relief after all the old monsters left. He didn't dare to be careless in front of so many old monsters. However, before he could rest, revered White Bai Fading came again. After the people of the outer sect left, only the elders of Sinister Sparrow sect were left in the palace. Bai Fading blocked Ning Fan's way. Elder Ning, I am Bai Fading. I want to have a bet with you. We're betting on the supreme grade magical treasure in your storage pouch. His words set off a small wave among the elders of Sinister Sparrow sect. They didn't know that Ning Fan had a supreme grade magical treasure. Only nascent soul old monsters were qualified to use a supreme grade magical treasure. However, when they recalled that Ning Fan had the 5th Revolution Yama Pill, it wasn't strange for him to have a supreme grade magical treasure. As a matter of fact, Ning Fan himself was the most curious about this bet. How did Bai Fading know that I have a supreme grade magical treasure? Ning Fan was slightly startled. He did have a supreme grade magical treasure, the Eastern Ocean Bell, but Bai Fading shouldn't know about it. What made Ning Fan feel strange was that this was the first time he met Bai Fading. Why did this old thing have such hostility towards him? Could it be that this old thing has taken the wrong medicine? He cursed inwardly. At this time, Lan Mei said in a low voice. Ning Fan, revered White and your master alchemist Han have always been at odds. He must be venting his anger on you. You mustn't agree to this bet. You are a harmonious spirit cultivator while he is a gold core cultivator. This bet isn't fair. I see. He can't defeat my master, so he's venting his anger on me. The corner of Ning Fan's mouth curved into a cold smile. His eyes were like lightning as he stared at Bai Fading. His chi suddenly rose. His master's enemy was also his enemy. He patted his storage pouch. He didn't take out the Eastern Ocean Bell, but he did release a trace of the magical treasure's chi. A supreme grade magical treasure. It was indeed a supreme-grade magical treasure. The current Ning Fan wasn't afraid of revealing his supreme-grade magical treasure in Yu country. There weren't many people who could snatch the treasure from his hands. Besides, he reckoned that no one would dare to attack him with Black Devil Ning's reputation. As soon as the chi of the supreme-grade magical treasure was released, Bai Feiting's face turned fiery. He was secretly delighted. He was delighted because he had guessed that Ning Fan possessed a supreme-grade magical treasure by accident. This old man will bet this treasure with you. I will use my natal magical treasure, the Myriad Soul Streamer. Bai Feiting patted his storage pouch and took out a high-grade mid-grade soul streamer that was shrouded in black mist. This treasure was extraordinary, but it wasn't worth mentioning compared to a supreme-grade magical treasure. Ning Fan looked at Bai Feiting mockingly and sneered. Is Revered White trying to use a high-grade mid-grade magical treasure to exchange for my supreme-grade magical treasure? Don't you think it's shameless to exchange a small treasure for a big one? What? How dare you say that I'm shameless? An intermediate gold core old man making a bet with a late Harmonious Spirit Jr. Isn't that shameless? Using a small treasure for a big one. Isn't that shameless? But don't worry, I will accept your challenge. I won't bet on your soul streamer. It's just a high-grade mid-grade treasure. The only thing I like about you is the title of the 4 revered devils. How about it? Are you willing to use the title of Revered White to bet with me? What? This kid wants my title of Revered White. Bai Feiting was slightly stunned, but then he sneered. He didn't think that an intermediate gold core cultivator like him would lose to a Harmonious Spirit Jr. Although he had offended Black Devil Ning by betting with Ning Fan, this was the tradition of Sinister Sparrow sect. He had to follow the rules. Even if Black Devil Ning was dissatisfied, he couldn't voice it out. If you win, I will give you my title of Revered White. How about that? But if you lose, your supreme-grade magical treasure will belong to me. But as compensation, I will give you 10,000 immortal jades. How about that? 10,000 immortal jades couldn't buy a supreme-grade magical treasure, not even a strand of hair. But Bai Feiting's action could be considered as giving Black Devil Ning some face. Alright, but I hope that this battle will be postponed for half a year. Half a year. Alright, I will give you half a year. Bai Feiting agreed without hesitation, fearing that Ning Fan would go back on his words. Half a year was just the time for a Harmonious Spirit Gold Core old expert to go into seclusion. He didn't think that Ning Fan could achieve much in half a year. The reason why Ning Fan wanted to postpone the battle for 100 years was to further enhance his strength. He didn't want to use his trump cards, but his true strength to suppress Bai Feiting. For this, he needed to go into seclusion for a long time. For this, he needed to make a lot of preparations. Chapter 84. The news of the duel between Ning Fan and Revered Bai spread like wildfire in Sinister Sparrow sect. Ning Fan was a proud son of heaven. Revered White was an expert of the older generation. The battle between the two was full of highlights. Even though the elders regarded Ning Fan highly, few of them believed that Ning Fan could defeat Revered Bai. However, when the young disciples saw Ning Fan, they treated him as their idol and firmly believed that Ning Fan could defeat Revered Bai. Young people like to believe in miracles. Ever since the news spread out, all the disciples of Sinister Sparrow sect who met Ning Fan along the way respectfully saluted him. Their eyes were burning with admiration. However, Ning Fan did not care about these things at all. After half a year of seclusion, not only did Ning Fan decide to break through to the peak of Harmonious Spirit Realm, but he was also prepared to break through to the False Core Realm in one go. For such a long period of seclusion, he definitely needed to make a lot of preparations. First preparation, alchemy. Breaking through to the peak Harmonious Spirit Realm or even the False Core Realm would require a large amount of consolidating spirit pills. In order to enhance the strength of the 3 god armies and enhance the strength of Ning City, he also needed the vein opening pill. Currently, what Ning City lacked the most was experts. Si Wuxia's strength seemed to be able to improve. With Ning Fan's peak gold core spirit sense, the spirit puppet seal that was planted by Ning Fan was not something that Si Wuxia could break, even if she had broken through to the nascent soul realm. Ning Fan needed to concoct a peak third revolution pill for Si Wuxia, purple golden pill. The effect was to raise a golden core late-stage cultivator by a small realm. Of course, there was a chance of success, but even if he failed, he could still strengthen his spiritual energy and lay the foundation for his next breakthrough. Lu Nanzi, Nanyangzi. Ning Fan no longer put their cultivation base in his eyes, but these two old men had quite a good network in Yu country. The former had been operating in the Yu country for many years, and the Lu clan's reputation was not weak. Their trade routes were prosperous, so he could be entrusted with some matters such as gathering spiritual herbs and immortal ores. The latter was also a guest elder of the Great Void sect. If Ning Fan wanted to take advantage of both the underworld and the underworld, it was necessary to make good use of Nanyangzi. Nangong, Situ, and Yuqi were the three that Ning Fan's attention the most. Nangong's strategy, decisiveness, and thoroughness were enough to make Ning Fan feel at ease leaving Ning City in his care. Moreover, Nangong seemed to be a dual cultivator of ice and lightning. His lightning spirit energy had reached the early gold core realm while his ice spirit energy had reached the intermediate harmonious spirit realm. Although Nangong Gong's lightning vein was destroyed, he had a way to reconstruct it, although the process would be extremely painful. Once he succeeded, Nangong would be a heavenly spirit cultivator with the ice and thunder veins. However, the attribute of his immortal vein was a grade higher than Ning Fan, who cultivated both ice and fire. Nangong was resourceful and had the aptitude to take on great responsibilities. Once he was nurtured, he would be a great help to Ning Fan. As for Situ, this person wholeheartedly cultivated the sword. He was extremely devoted to his heart and sword. He had the heart of an expert that even Ning Fans felt ashamed of being inferior to. However, what he lacked was the guidance of a great teacher. With Ning Fan's guidance and the tempering in the blood sea, this person could become an outstanding cultivator in the Tao of Sword. As for Yuqi, this weirdo, Ning Fan could only chuckle. However, being a weirdo also had its advantages. Normal people would not mate with pigs, but this guy did. Perhaps, among the three of them, the one whose cultivation rose the fastest would be this weirdo. Although it was a little disgusting, in the future, when Yuchi's little pig forms its gold core and transforms into a woman, it would probably be considered as his cultivation having succeeded. Yuchi, this person is simple and honest, but loyal. Moreover, he has cultivated the heaven-defying human pig mating technique. His future is simply boundless. The next time he returned, Ning Fan would not only give the three of them a huge boost in strength, he would also bestow them Jade Royal Dan. He didn't dare to give this Dan to his beloved woman because it was too violent and not something an ordinary person could endure. However, Ning Fan believed that the three of them would be able to take the first Jade Royal Dan given their temperament. Since 7 Apricot City had Jade Royal Grass and Coiling Evil Grass, there must be other places in the Rain Immortal world that had them. He wanted Nangong to secretly purchase these herbs. What Ning Fan needed was time. If he was given a few hundred years, he was confident that the three black demon armies would be strong enough to sweep across the Rain Immortal world and even void fragmentation experts. Unfortunately, what I lack the most is time. 100 years is too fast. Moksha Emperor. Thinking of Moksha Emperor, Ning Fan's eyes flashed with a cold light and he clenched his fists. Apart from concocting pills, Ning Fan also needed other preparations. For example, the cultivation technique and the devouring of the black demon flame. However, these should be completed during seclusion. As for the black Yin Qi, he would find a chance to ask Sinister Sparrow for it. Sinister Sparrow was his father-in-law in name, so he shouldn't be so stingy, Ning Fan pondered along the way. After leaving Long Inclination Hall, he went straight to the Inner Sex Merit Hall. Naturally, he wanted to exchange all 15 million contribution points for cash. I wonder if there are any good things in the Merit Hall that can tempt me. Ning Fan was slightly looking forward to it. After the disturbance caused by Ning Fan's contribution points, the merit hall finally calmed down. The elder who was in charge of the merit hall, Meng Chu, heaved a sigh of relief. He knew that there was no problem with Ning Fan's merit points and that he only poisoned the gold core ghost. To him, this was the best news. He didn't need to bear the responsibility of damaging the merit steel. It was already afternoon. At this time, most of the disciples had already had their lunch and were meditating in seclusion. The merit hall was also deserted. Meng Chu was leisurely sitting on the rattan rocking chair, tasting the spiritual tea and humming a tune. He liked this kind of leisurely life. What do cultivators cultivate for? Longevity? Wrong. What is longevity for? For happiness. If I, Meng Chu, am happy now, why would I need longevity? Meng Chu's temperament was open-minded. Ordinary cultivators couldn't understand his state of mind, but those experts with profound cultivation like Sinister Sparrow admired Meng Chu very much. After listening to Meng Chu's soliloquy, a chuckle came from outside the merit hall. Elder Meng's words are wrong, temporary happiness must be guaranteed by strength. In this world, without strength, a temporary happiness will easily attract jealousy and be taken away by others. The voice was extremely young, but the tone was old and wise. His words refuted Meng Chu's opinion. Meng Chu put down the teacup with a displeased expression. He thought that it was another vain opening disciple who didn't understand the depth of his cultivation and casually criticized him. These words seemed to be reasonable, but Meng Chu was still an elder. Being refuted by a disciple was a disgrace to him. But when he saw the appearance of the person, Meng Chu didn't dare to be displeased anymore. Instead, he immediately put on a smile. Even though the smile was a little reluctant, he didn't dare to show any neglect. White robe and black cloak, dual cultivation jade medallion, the person who came was the famous harmonious spirit assassin, Ning Fan. Meng Chu hurriedly stood up and greeted him with a smile. Hee, how can Elder Ning be so free? Come to my merit hall. I don't have a good cauldron like the dual cultivation palace for you to pluck. Ning Fan didn't know whether to laugh or cry at Meng Chu's words. So in the eyes of evil cultivators, he was a ruthless devil who only knew how to pluck women for cultivation. But it wasn't surprising that others would think so. He cultivated the dual cultivation technique and the speed of his cultivation was simply terrifying. It wasn't hard for people to suspect that he had ravaged innocent women every night to achieve his current cultivation. He didn't dwell on this matter and said with a smile. Today, Ning Fan naturally came to the merit hall to exchange items. But this is my first time in Sinister Sparrow's sect, so I don't know what good things are stored in the sect. Good things? Hee, there are a few, they are plucking tools refined by famous masters. Hee, Elder Ning, take a look, what do you think of this jade yang root? Meng Chu showed a fawning expression and hurriedly took out a jade item from the jade cabinet. That jade was an extremely fine piece of jade. However, it was carved from a man's penis. The effect of this item was self-evident. Ning Fan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Did this Meng Chu think that he liked this kind of thing? Ha, is Elder Ning satisfied with this jade sun root? Also, this night-luminescent pearl is produced in the southern Demon Sea. If it is stuffed into a woman's body, it will definitely be endless. Meng Chu's face was filled with a wretched expression. Ning Fan knew that if he didn't interrupt Meng Chu's thoughts, he was afraid that Meng Chu would take out more strange tools to promote to him. Forget it, Elder Meng. Open the cover of the formation on the counter. I will have a look myself. Ah. Does Elder Ning think that my Tao of obscenity isn't good enough? AI, it's no wonder. I haven't touched a woman for 200 years, AI, that year, I was still a cowherd boy. I was with Widow Wang next door, AI, let's not talk about it. 200 years have passed and I don't even know where Widow Wang's grave is, my first night. Ning Fan felt helpless towards this Meng Chu. There would never be a lack of weirdos among the evil cultivators. There were only things that you couldn't imagine, but there was nothing that you couldn't see. Perhaps, there were also many fake righteous cultivators who acted like thieves and prostitutes. It was just that they were better at disguising themselves as compared to the evil cultivators. Ning Fan sighed slightly. This was his first time thinking about the difference between the righteous and evil cultivators. Everyone was a human with 7 emotions and 6 desires. There was no difference between the righteous and evil cultivators. If there was a difference, it would be the cultivation method system. The cultivation method of the evil cultivators was violent and ruthless. On the other hand, the cultivation method of the righteous cultivators was broad and broad. His pace was slow, but his eyes were hurriedly glancing at the rows of counters. As for Meng Chu, he was cautiously following behind Ning Fan, fearing that he would neglect Ning Fan. 100-year-old Eastern jade grass. If this grass was older, it could be used to concoct a type of sleeping incense called jade birth smoke. No one below the nascent soul realm would be able to resist it. Unfortunately, Coral Wisdom King. This is a good item for stabilizing the realm of spirit sense. My spirit sense has improved too quickly, causing my foundation to be unstable. It's just that the price is a little too expensive. 50,000 contribution points. Fine, I'll change to another one. Thunder water. This is a good item, but the label on it says some water. It seems like no one in Sinister Sparrow sect has recognized the origin of this item. 10,000 contribution points. This item is too cheap. It won't be a loss even if I sell it for millions of contribution points. This is the divine spring used to refine an immemorial divine weapon. If I use this spring to condense the Separation Slayer sword, the body of the sword will have a trace of thunder power. I'll change it. Huh. This is... Ning Fan halted his steps. He raised his hand and took out a green-skinned ancient book from the jade cabinet. Meng Chu was secretly startled by the act of waving his hand, ignoring the formation and directly taking away the item. The defensive formation was a spirit realm formation. Even a gold core cultivator wouldn't be able to ignore a spirit realm formation, except for the 4 venerables. I heard that Ning Fan had a duel with Revered Bai. I initially thought that Ning Fan was being reckless, but it seems like this kid's hidden strength isn't any weaker than Revered Bai's. When he secretly discovered this matter, the respect he had for Ning Fan deepened. Meng Chu didn't dare to disturb Ning Fan when he saw that Ning Fan was concentrating on the ancient book. The only strange thing was why Ning Fan was interested in this wordless heavenly book. That's right. This green-skinned ancient book was indeed the wordless heavenly book. Ning Fan flipped through the pages, but all of them were yellow and blank without a single word. Except for the 4 cursive words on the cover of the ancient book. Sending the Lord to death. It was just 4 words, but it gave Ning Fan a desolate murderous intent. This was the first time his immortal emperor's murderous intent showed fear. The person who wrote these 4 words had a cultivation base far above immortal emperor ancient chaos. Who was this person? This murderous intent couldn't be sensed by ordinary people. Only void fragmentation experts could see it. Wordless heavenly book, exchange price, 500 contribution points. Ning Fan revealed an inexplicable expression. Even if this ancient book didn't have a single word, the 4 words on the cover of the book were enough to frighten some real old monsters. It was true that there wasn't a single word on the book. He didn't know what kind of mood the person who wrote this book had in the past. He only wrote 4 words without leaving behind a single sentence. However, there seemed to be a trace of loneliness in the paper that lingered for a long time despite being separated by tens of thousands of years. Because of this charm, this ordinary book still hadn't turned into dust even after millions of years. This person's cultivation base is shocking. 500 contribution points for these 4 words. It's worth it. Ning Fan's eyes were burning with passion. An expert who was stronger than immortal emperor ancient chaos. The ancient era was truly an era where gods and devils gathered. It was fascinating. At the same time, Ning Fan also realized something. If he thought that he was invincible because of his identity as the descendant of ancient chaos, he would suffer the consequences of his own actions one day. The descendants of immortal emperors were as many as the hairs on a cow. The inheritances of gods and devils were as many as the rain of locusts. One day, when he ascended to the four heavens, there would definitely be a gathering of experts. Ning Fan didn't know that his action of flipping the pages of the book had once again shocked Meng Chu. This wordless heavenly book was extremely strange. Even Sinister Sparrow needed a vast amount of magical power to flip a page. In order to ensure that there were no words in this book, Sinister Sparrow had spent several years to completely flip through the book. As for people like Revered Bai, they couldn't even flip a single page. Meng Chu's heart was filled with regret. He realized that the entire Sinister Sparrow sect had underestimated Ning Fan. He was afraid that Ning Fan's true combat strength was comparable to Sinister Sparrow's. In the entire Sinister Sparrow sect, only I know Elder Ning's capability. Hee, I must please Elder Ning. Chapter 85. Ning Fan's eyes swept through the rows of jade cabinets and revealed a slightly surprised expression. The foundation of Sinister Sparrow sect was much deeper than Green Clan. The spiritual herbs and magical treasures here tempted Ning Fan. The rotten corpse of a nascent soul old monster. If he gave this to corpse refinement old devil, he might be able to refine a peak gold core corpse puppet. 1 million contribution points, early gold core wood armored puppet. 500,000 contribution points. Peak high-grade magical treasure, flying cloud rope, 2 million contribution points. In addition, there were large amounts of spiritual fire, spiritual ice and spiritual lightning that could be exchanged for at least 2nd grade, 3rd grade and 4th grade. Devil-slaying divine lightning, 3rd grade spiritual lightning. Lightning spirit immortal vein cultivators could refine and devour it. 100,000 contribution points. True Yang fire, 4th grade spiritual fire. 1 million contribution points. Black Jade Ice, 3rd grade spiritual ice. 100,000 contribution points. 3rd grade spiritual item was still acceptable. But the 4th grade True Yang fire really tempted Ning Fan. As for fire and ice, once they reached the 5th grade, they would be called Heavenly Frost and Earth Fire. There were a total of 12 types of fire and ice above the 5th grade in the Rain Immortal world. Although the 4th grade True Yang fire was slightly weaker than the Black Demon Flame and the White Bone Flame, it shouldn't be underestimated. Unfortunately, Ning Fan wasn't willing to exchange 1 million contribution points for it. He didn't lack fire now. He already had 2 types of Earth Vein demonic fire that he hadn't devoured yet. Apart from that, there were many precious evil techniques and even nascent soul cultivation methods. Unfortunately, Ning Fan couldn't cultivate all of them, so he naturally wouldn't be greedy. His eyes swept across the pill counter and was slightly moved. 3rd Revolution Pill, Profound Dragon Pill. This pill had the same effect as the Jade Royal Pill. There was a certain chance of mastering the sound wave magical technique of Dragon Roar and Lion Roar. However, it had been lost for a long time. He didn't expect to see it here. 4th Revolution Pill, Immortal Pill. Consuming this pill could extend one's lifespan by 300 years. Those old monsters who were nearing the end of their lifespan would do anything for this pill. A 4th Revolution Pill required 3 million contribution points to exchange. Such a sky-high price made Ning Fan flinch. The ingredients of this pill were rare. Otherwise, Ning Fan would have concocted it himself to sell it at a good price. Indeed, it was time to make money. There were only a few tens of thousands of immortal jades left in his storage pouch. Most of them had been used up by the formation in Demon Sinister Forest. I am a 4th Revolution Dan Master. If I die of poverty, it will be too ridiculous. Shaking his head, Ning Fan casually took out the items from the light screen and handed the jade plate to Meng Chu to deduct his contribution points. Most of the contribution points were used to exchange for precious spirit herbs. Now, the main ingredients for the nascent forming pill were complete. He had also exchanged for quite a few immortal ores. Next time he returned, he would start forging equipment. Let's change the equipment of the three gods' army. Why don't we equip each of us with a spirit crossbow and form a formation to shoot down golden core cultivators? Other than that, he had specially exchanged for a damaged flying sword for Situ. The traceless sword was once a sword used by a nascent soul old monster. It was a supreme grade sword and had been destroyed. However, it still contained a trace of that nascent soul old monster's understanding of the sword Tao. If he gave this sword to Situ, he might be able to comprehend his own sword Tao from it and establish his lifelong foundation. In just a short while, Ning Fan had exchanged all 15 million contribution points. By the time he realized it, there were only slightly more than 200,000 contribution points left. The seemingly huge contribution points were actually so easy to spend. Forget it, I'll leave for now. These things are enough for now. Meng Chu's horizons had been broadened today. What did it mean to be extravagant? This was what it meant to be extravagant. 2 million contribution points were spent in a blink of an eye. His face wasn't flushed, nor was he out of breath. Compared to Ning Fan, the other old monsters who came to exchange for treasures all had a distressed look on their faces. Worthy of being the disciple of Master Apothecary, the grandson of Black Devil, worthy of being the #1 expert below the Gold Core realm in Yu Country. There are only a few people in Yu Country who can match this boldness. Meng Chu praised and returned the jade disc to Ning Fan before sending him off. Walking out of the inner hall and through the winding corridor, he could smell the fragrance of tea. Ning Fan halted his footsteps. He didn't notice that there was a tea garden outside the winding corridor when he arrived. Meng Chu was a lazy person, but he loved to drink tea. Naturally, this tea garden was managed by him. There were even some famous types of tea in the garden. But what caught Ning Fan's attention was the emerald green weeds that were absorbing the nutrients from the soil. It wasn't strange for there to be weeds in every herb field. What made Ning Fan curious was that the weeds could actually move. He was certain that his eyes weren't playing tricks on him. There were more than 10 of those weeds and each of them had hundreds of leaves. While Ning Fan was observing, one of the emerald green weeds drilled out of the ground and ran to another tea plant. A wisp of smoke disappeared into the soil. This is. His eyes flashed and revealed an overjoyed expression. In the mortal world, there was a type of medicinal herb that could move, called Caterpillar sinensis. In the cultivation world, there were also some medicinal herbs that could move. If Ning Fan wasn't mistaken, this emerald green grass was what he lacked the most when cultivating the false thought art. Spirit refining grass. It was also known as the path grass. How could Ning Fan not be happy? He was just worrying about how to change his appearance and cultivation base when he found the spirit refining grass. Cultivators valued luck, and Ning Fan's luck seemed to be pretty good. But what made Ning Fan curious was that the spirit refining grass was considered as a special item even in ancient times. The conditions for its formation were extremely harsh. Not only did it have to grow in a cold and gloomy place, but it also had to be accompanied by people who chanted Tao scriptures day and night. Only then could it develop a trace of spiritual intelligence and see its true nature. Only then could it have the effect of spirit refining. He looked at Meng Chu with a strange expression. Could it be that this person accidentally grew the spirit refining grass that even the ancient cultivators couldn't grow? Unlike Ning Fan's joy, Meng Chu showed a distressed expression when he saw the moving weeds in the tea garden and sighed. I don't know what sin this old man has committed, but this kind of weed has appeared in the tea garden in the past 10 years. At first, there was only one, but later, there were more than 10 of them. This weed seemed to have become a spirit. A dignified harmonious spirit cultivator, couldn't even catch it. This weed doesn't have a body, but why can it absorb nutrients from the soil? It doesn't have legs, but why can it walk? There are so many unsolved mysteries in the cultivation world, even the sect master couldn't get rid of this weed. Meng Chu sighed. Ning Fan put away his joyful expression and smiled. I can get rid of this weed for Elder Meng Chu. Upon hearing this, Meng Chu's spirit trembled and his eyes lit up. If Elder Ning can get rid of this damn weed for me, I will be eternally grateful for Elder's great kindness. I'm willing to be your slave in my next life. Drinking tea was Meng Chu's only hobby. This weed had been bothering him for more than 10 years. However, Ning Fan still couldn't understand why there would be someone in this world who would swear to be a slave in his next life for a small tea garden. This Meng Chu was indeed a weirdo. However, it was all thanks to Meng Chu that Ning Fan could get the spirit refining grass. He didn't know what Meng Chu had said in the tea garden to make the spirit refining grass grow. Ning Fan stopped thinking about it and slowly walked to the outside of the tea garden. As he approached, the dozen of spirit refining grass immediately hid in the soil and disappeared. The spirit refining grass had a trace of spiritual intelligence. When it escaped, it was invisible, making it extremely hard to catch. However, Ning Fan knew how to harvest the spirit refining grass. He took out an incense burner and put a few kinds of spiritual herbs in it. Then, he crushed them into incense sticks and ignited them. These spiritual herbs were extremely rich in with spiritual energy. One of them was a bewitching fragrance that could bewitch women. When the incense was ignited, it lingered and spread in the air. The spirit refining grass seemed to have smelled the aroma and instinctively showed greed. The bewitching fragrance gradually bewitched the spiritual intelligence of the spirit refining grass. They drilled out of the soil and instinctively hopped towards Ning Fan. Meng Chu didn't even dare to breathe loudly. This was definitely the weirdest thing he had seen since he started cultivating the devil path. There was actually someone who drugged spirit herbs, bewitched them, and lured them into a trap. What an expert! Elder Ning must have used this method to bewitch millions of beauties. TSK. His technique is so skillful and the bewitching fragrance is so alluring. If I was a woman, I might not be able to keep my chastity. Meng Chu was more and more impressed by Ning Fan. When the spirit refining grass approached Ning Fan swept out his spirit sense and enveloped the grass with an invisible spirit sense. Immediately, he patted his storage pouch and took out a glowing jade box. He put the grass into the box and kept the incense burner. Then, he heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, I didn't fail you. He cupped his fists at Meng Chu and left. As for Meng Chu, he was almost moved to tears when he looked at the tea garden that had lost its weed. Ning Fan is really a good man. I must remember this kindness for the rest of my life. A good man will live a peaceful life. Next time, I must send some good seeds to Elder Ning. The seeds of spiritual tea, however, if Meng Chu knew that the weeds that he hated so much were actually extremely expensive divine herbs in the ancient times, what kind of expression would he have? Chapter 87. In one night, he was plucked by Bai Lu ruthlessly. However, with her cultivation base, she was unable to seize a trace of cultivation base from Ning Fan. Her messy hair was full of milky white liquid. Her face, lips, breasts, and lower body were all covered with this liquid. She tried very hard to suck out Ning Fan's yang essence, but unfortunately, there was no trace of magical power in the yang essence. However, she didn't know all of this. At this moment, she was sleeping soundly because she found out that her cultivation had improved after plucking Ning Fan. She was originally at the peak of early harmonious spirit realm, but after Ning Fan deliberately activated the dual cultivation ability of the yin-yang locket, her cultivation had improved. I won and you lost. From now on, you, Ning Fan, will be my cauldron. I will pluck you every day, pluck you. Before she fainted, she had a proud smile on her face, even though she had intercourse with Ning Fan for a whole night. Is that so? Congratulations. Ning Fan stroked her slender and smooth jade legs with an inexplicable smile. Was this the first woman that he had deceived? However, with Bai Lu here, his days in Sinister Sparrow sect wouldn't be lonely. After putting away his charming thoughts, he headed straight to the Dan Palace. Dan Palace was the palace that the old monster used to be in charge of. Now, it was taken over by another alchemist elder. No one in Sinister Sparrow sect knew that the old monster had lost his cultivation. Dan Palace was a palace made of green bricks and jade tiles. There was a nascent realm grand formation outside the palace. It was set up by the old ancestor of Sinister Sparrow sect for tens of thousands of years. It was used to gather the spiritual power of heaven and earth to increase the success rate of alchemy. Outside the palace, Ning Fan was hit by the fire's spiritual power. He held the elder's jade token and went through the grand formation. Inside the palace, a red-eyed old man with dirty robes and messy hair was reading alchemy books in front of the bookshelf in the outer palace. The outer palace stored alchemy books for the disciples to exchange for and read with contribution points. In the inner palace, there was a third-grade alchemy room. The low-grade one used the first-grade earth fire to concoct pills. The mid-grade one used the second-grade earth fire to concoct pills. The high-grade one used the third-grade earth fire to concoct pills. Generally speaking, only third revolution Dan masters could use the high-grade alchemy room. In the past, apart from the old devil, only this red-eyed old man could use it in Sinister Sparrow sect. This old man's name was Xueqing. He had an eccentric and indifferent personality. If his alchemy skills were graded, he should have reached the level of intermediate third revolution. He was not as good as the old monster, but in Yu country, he could be considered a famous alchemy master. There was an endless stream of gold-core old monsters asking him to refine pills. His red eyes were due to a strange habit of his. He liked to concoct pills with the lid of the cauldron open and observe the concoction process with his naked eyes. Being suffused by the medicinal qi, his eyes turned red. It was said that this red eyes seemed to have formed a Dharma eye divine ability called Fiery Eye, which was extremely effective in seeing through illusions and invisibility. After sensing Ning Fan's arrival, Xueqing was too lazy to care about him. He continued reading the book and said coldly, "Elder Ning, Humph. My Dan Palace is for people to concoct pills, not for people to concoct drugs. What are you doing here?" This person's words were extremely blunt and he had a deep prejudice against Ning Fan. He didn't show any respect to Ning Fan like the other experts of Sinister Sparrow sect. Ning Fan was slightly startled. He didn't know how he offended this old man in front of him. But listening to the old man's words, it seemed that the emphasis was on the word drugs. Could it be that this old man was dissatisfied with his dual cultivation? While he was pondering, Xueqing put down the book and turned to look at Ning Fan coldly when he saw that Ning Fan hadn't left yet. A fiery light flashed in his eyes, carrying a trace of early gold core aura. "Humph. Your master, Han Yuanji, is a hero and a peak third revolution Dan master. How could he accept a good-for-nothing disciple like you who only knows how to play with women? Are you worthy of Han Yuanji?" Xueqing's pressure was like a gentle breeze to Ning Fan's face, but the gaze of the fiery eyes made Ning Fan's heart shudder. He thought to himself, this person has such a scorching gaze. This fiery eyes cannot be underestimated. From the second sentence, Ning Fan vaguely understood why this old man was hostile to him. For the old monster. This Xueqing seemed to be extremely eccentric and arrogant, but he was certainly very persistent in his alchemy. From his clothes and the fiery eye, one could see that this person regarded alchemy as his life. Perhaps this person was arrogant in Sinister Sparrow sect. The only person that could convince him was the old monster who was stronger than him in alchemy. Xueqing probably regarded the old monster as the opponent that he wanted to surpass in his life. Seeing Ning Fan being such a good-for-nothing, who only knew how to play with women and dual cultivation, he was naturally extremely indignant. The truth was more or less the same. Ning Fan had already guessed most of it. If it was because of his friendship with the old monster, Ning Fan wouldn't bother with Xueqing. Xueqing's scolding was mostly out of good intentions. He hoped that Ning Fan would turn over a new leaf and learn from the old monster. Ning Fan didn't come here to concoct drugs. Plus, Ning Fan plucked cauldrons, so why would I need to do that? I came here to concoct pills. I ask Elder Shui to open an intermediate concoction room for me. His words were neither servile nor overbearing. His calm expression suddenly turned into a trace of surprise in Shui Qing's eyes. This kid's strength is really as strong as the rumors say. He's the first person below Gold Core to be able to stand firm under my fiery eye. But, he knows alchemy. He even wants to borrow an intermediate concoction room. Does he want to concoct second revolution pills? Shui Qing's eyes sized up Ning Fan from top to bottom. He didn't believe that Ning Fan had the ability to concoct second revolution pills. But in the end, his prejudice against Ning Fan had lessened a little. Since this kid could withstand my pressure, he was barely qualified to be the old monster's disciple. Fine, for the sake of the old monster, I'll open an elementary concoction room for him. For the sake of your master, I'll give you an elementary concoction room. You can do whatever you want. Shui Qing's face showed a trace of pain when he thought that Ning Fan, a kid who didn't know alchemy, was going to use his concoction room. If the news of him opening a concoction room for Ning Fan were to spread, it would surely shock Sinister Sparrow's sect. After all, given Shui Qing's eccentric personality, he would only open a concoction room for official alchemists who had the alchemist badge. This badge was certified by the Rain Immortal Palace. Every country had a Rain Palace, including Yu country, where one could be tested for alchemy, refining and formation techniques. It was said that if one became a technician under the Rain Palace, he would enjoy great rewards. Without the badge, Shui Qing would always chase people away. He wouldn't even open a primary concoction room. But today, he gave Ning Fan a low-grade concoction room. Elder Shui, what's the use of opening a primary concoction room for me? I want to concoct the second revolution consolidating spirit pill. The earth fire in the primary concoction room isn't strong enough and the success rate is too low. Ning Fan slightly frowned and explained. Nonsense. You're only 17 years old. How can you concoct a second revolution pill? Humph. Are you looking down on alchemy? Alchemy isn't like dual cultivation. There's a shortcut to improve one's level. It requires the accumulation of experience. In the past, I worked as a medicine boy for a master alchemist for 30 years before I became a first revolution alchemist. 100 years later, I became a second revolution alchemist and 200 years later, I became a third revolution alchemist. Alchemy must be accumulated step by step. With your anxious state of mind, not to mention concoction, even your cultivation will be filled with inner demons. Learn from your master and your old ancestor, Black Devil Ning. They are all famous alchemists in Yu country. They learned step by step and accumulated experience to get where they are today. Shui Qing reprimanded Ning Fan with a tone of a senior. Only when he talked about the old devil and Black Devil Ning would he show a trace of fascination. This made Ning Fan feel both bitter and bitter. If this Shui Qing knew that he was Black Devil Ning and that he was reprimanding the person he admired the most, how would he feel? Senior, please open a mid-grade concoction room for me. Ning Fan smiled bitterly. This old man had a good relationship with the old devil. So, he would call him senior. It was this senior that softened Shui Qing's heart. He recalled the time when he was learning alchemy. He kept running into walls and begged Ning Fan to change his mind. He heaved a long sigh and shook his head. AI, your stubbornness is very similar to your master. Forget it, mid-grade it is. That earth fire is a second-grade spiritual fire. It's extremely hard to control. Be careful not to die from the backlash of the fire. A young man will always fail and suffer some hardships. Only then will he know that his senior's words are reasonable. No matter how much I say, it won't be comparable to your experience of failure. Go now. Shui Qing formed an incantation gesture to activate the formation of a mid-grade concoction room in the inner palace. Then, he gave Ning Fan a unique formation token. Only those with the token could enter the formation. This was to protect the alchemist from being disturbed during their concoction. Thank you, Elder Shui. Holding the formation token in his hand, he entered the inner hall and walked towards one of the mid-grade concoction rooms. In the elementary elixir refinement chamber, the earth fire was pale yellow and only had the might of a grade 1 spirit fire. In the intermediate elixir refinement room, the earth fire was faint red and had the might of a grade 2 spirit fire. In the high-grade alchemy room, the earth fire was dark green and had the power of grade 3. Ning Fan walked into the formation light, waved his palm, and took out the Dan fragmentation cauldron. He drew the earth fire into the cauldron, and at the same time, skillfully threw the ingredients of the consolidating spirit Dan into the cauldron. First, he needed to concoct enough consolidating spirit pills to break through to the peak of harmonious spirit realm. Then, he would refine the vein opening Dan, spirit raising Dan, and spirit consolidating Dan. In the future, he would bring them back to 7 Apricot City for the 3-god army to consume. As for the medicine to treat Lan Mei's injuries and some third revolution pills needed for secluded cultivation, he would have to wait until he had successfully refined the pills and asked Xue Qing for a high-grade alchemy room. Thinking about it, if he could concoct a second revolution pill, he would definitely be able to reverse Xue Qing's prejudice against him. It would not be difficult for him to borrow a high-grade alchemy room. Xue Qing walked into the inner hall with an ancient expression. 40 years. He had been friends with the old monster for 40 years. Now, the old monster's disciple had already grown up. He was young and arrogant, thinking that he could concoct a second revolution pill at the age of 17. How impulsive he was when he was young. But wasn't this the nature of young people? They could only grow through failure. The truth was far less direct than a single failure. Han Yuanji, I have made an exception to open a mid-grade alchemy room for your disciple. It is all for your sake. I want to help you train this disciple. He is also an unpolished jade, but if an unpolished jade is not polished, it will never become a fine jade. Until now, Xue Qing still stubbornly believed that Ning Fan could not concoct a second revolution pill. But this stubbornness was dispelled when a whiff of the medicinal fragrance of a second revolution pill wafted out from the alchemy room. Ning Fan had really concocted a second revolution pill. This medicinal fragrance seemed to be the consolidating spirit pill. Consolidating spirit pill was one of the most difficult pills to concoct among the second revolution pills. But this kid had actually concocted it. No, it's not just one. His eyes were filled with shock for the first time in his life. Because he could smell that there wasn't just one whiff of medicinal fragrance drifting out from the alchemy room, but hundreds of them. Could it be that Ning Fan had concocted hundreds of second revolution pills at the same time? Impossible. Even the old monster couldn't do it. Chapter 88. Ning Fan would never have thought that Xue Qing could sniff out the number of pills just from the fragrance. This keen sense of smell was innate and Ning Fan knew that he couldn't learn it. Concocting 200 consolidating spirit pills at the same time wasn't easy for the current Ning Fan. This was also because his concoction technique had reached the 4th revolution. If it was another 3rd revolution pill master like Xue Qing, it would be extremely difficult to concoct 10 consolidating spirit pills at the same time. Fortunately, Ning Fan's spirit sense was at the peak gold core realm. After consuming the spirit refining grass and the bright king coral, his spirit sense became more solid and more agile than before. Half an hour later, his eyes suddenly flashed. He patted the lid of the cauldron and flicked his sleeve before the fragrance spread out. He used his spirit sense to seal the fragrance and the pills into a jade bottle. Spirit sense pill sealing. This pill sealing technique was one of the 9 revolutions of the river wheel. It could ensure that the fragrance of the herbs wouldn't disperse and the medicinal efficacy would be greater. There was no one else in the Rain Immortal world who could do this except for Ning Fan. Finally, the pills are formed. Ning Fan wiped the sweat from his forehead and heaved a sigh of relief. He didn't immediately consume the consolidating spirit pill to break through but sat cross-legged to regulate his breathing. One consolidating spirit pill was enough to increase the concentration of spiritual energy in one immortal vein and gradually turn it into a solid state. However, success rates weren't guaranteed. It depended on the level of the concoction of the pill master. An ordinary second revolution pill refinement master would only have a success rate of 1/3 of the spirit strengthening pill. The pills concocted by a third revolution pill master like Shui Qing might have a success rate of 50%. As for the consolidating spirit pill Ning Fan concocted, it had at least a success rate of 90%. This was a terrifying number. After half an hour, Ning Fan's magical power was fully restored. He then took out the consolidating spirit pill and consumed it. As soon as the medicinal efficacy melted, an abundant medicinal energy rushed straight to the immortal vein. The late harmonious spirit immortal vein had become tough and wide after the spirit ascension. As for spirit consolidation, it allowed the magical energy in the immortal vein to continuously increase its spirituality and turn it into a solid state, laying the foundation for forming the gold core. 1 vein, 10 veins, 100 veins. The yin-yang evil vein could refine the medicinal energy very quickly. The disadvantage was that the magical energy flowed too fast, causing the immortal vein to swell and hurt. But a mere pain, compared to the Jade Royal Pill, was not even worth mentioning. The time lasted for a day and a night. After a day, Ning Fan let out a long roar. His aura rose abruptly and turned into a gale. His magical power had doubled compared to before. Peak harmonious spirit realm. As for his divine sense, as his cultivation level increased, it reached the half-step nascent soul realm and it was difficult for it to increase any further. His cultivation and divine sense had reached a bottleneck at the same time. His cultivation was at the bottleneck of the golden core realm, but his spiritual sense was at the bottleneck of the nascent soul realm. At this point, eating any pills would be useless. The golden core bottleneck required one to go into seclusion and sever their heart demons. Without dozens of years, it would be impossible to break through. Feeling the vast magical power in his body, Ning Fan flicked his finger. A trace of lightning shot out from his finger and struck the blue stone on the ground. That blue stone was called the Ghost Rock. It was known for its toughness. However, a lightning strike from Ning Fan was able to create a thumb-sized hole that was half an inch deep. The area where the blue stone was damaged was slightly charred. Lightning Palm. That trace of lightning was a divine ability that only gold core old monsters could use. Ning Fan's cultivation had yet to reach the gold core realm, so he could only cast out a trace of lightning. It was not the lightning palm, but the power of that trace of lightning was already comparable to ordinary spirit realm magical arts. This is the means of a gold core expert compared to a harmonious spirit expert. It's not the quantity of magical power, but the quality. He closed his eyes and calmed down the joy of increasing his strength. Gradually, his heart became as calm as still water. Gold core, gold core. Just one more step and he would be able to form the gold core and become a master in Yu country. Half a year ago, he was just a mortal. Half a year later, he already had an earth-shattering strength. The increase in strength was too fast and the heart demons that were produced would be extremely difficult to sever. The sect master of all pleasure sect, Sha Jilyo, who bullied him in the past, was only a 10th level vein opening girl. She was nothing in Ning Fan's eyes now. His home in the past was the Ning clan of Hai Ning. It seemed that the old ancestor of the Ning clan was only a harmonious spirit cultivator. They are too weak. Ning Fan's tone was extremely indifferent. All pleasure sect and Ning clan were his enemies in the past. But now, they were just ants in his eyes, not worth mentioning and disdaining. His state of mind was changing. He was adapting to the identity and state of mind of an expert. He stood alone for a long time, then opened his eyes and exhaled a mouthful of turbid qi. Without any change in his expression, he sat cross-legged again. He kept the rest of the consolidating spirit pills on the ground and stabilized his realm. When his qi was completely condensed, he began to concoct other pills again. For a day and a night, Xue Qing waited outside Ning Fan's concoction room. His expression was somewhat respectful. He didn't dare to make a sound, fearing that he would disturb Ning Fan. He was 30% sure that Ning Fan was a fourth revolution pill master. He believed in his sense of smell. His ability to identify medicinal fragrance had once won the praise of a fourth revolution pill master. Even that fourth revolution pill master's ability to identify medicinal fragrance wasn't as good as Xue Qing's. Based on his sense of smell, he was 30% sure that he could deduce Ning Fan's concoction technique. If he could observe Ning Fan's concoction personally, his confidence would be greater. He, Xue Qing, respectfully stood outside the stone door, like a disciple guarding his master. It was just like many years ago when he was apprenticed to a master and learned martial arts, the scene of standing in the snow at the gate of Qingmen. Many experts who came to Dan Palace to concoct pills gasped as if they had seen a ghost when they saw Xue Qing standing outside the concoction room personally. Hiss! Who's concocting pills in this concoction room? How could the dignified elder Xue Qing wait like this? This person must have a great reputation. Look, it's Dual Cultivation Palace on the door plate. Dual Cultivation Palace, none of those lawless women knows how to concoct pills. Could it be that Elder Ning Fan is concocting pills in there? He's worthy of being Elder Ning. Even the dignified Third Revolution Pill Master Xue Qing is so respectful to him. These experts clicked their tongues in admiration, but as soon as they spoke, Xue Qing glared at them as if he wanted to devour them. This Xue Qing was also a demonic cultivator and wasn't a kind person to begin with. Get out of here. All of you, get out of Dan Palace. Dan Palace isn't open to anyone today. Xue Qing's tone was ferocious. He even slightly released his gold core aura. However, his voice was extremely low, which gave people a comical feeling. He was afraid that his voice was too loud, which might affect Ning Fan's concoction process. After driving all the old monsters who came to concoct pills out of Dan Palace, Xue Qing emptied the entire place just for Ning Fan. He waited bitterly for a long time. Finally, the stone door of the concoction room opened with a bang. Along with waves of medicinal fragrance, an extraordinary youth walked out of the room with a slightly tired expression. Despite his tired expression, his chi was as different as heaven and earth compared to before he entered the concoction room. Xue Qing was about to ask about Ning Fan's true concoction technique, but before he could open his mouth, he sensed Ning Fan's chi and froze on the spot. Peak Harmonious Spirit Realm. You have broken through to the peak of Harmonious Spirit Realm? It only took you a day. Xue Qing's voice was a little ear-piercing because of his excitement. Hee, I was just lucky. I'm a little tired today. I'll come back another day to concoct pills. Ning Fan cupped his fists at Xue Qing and left. Xue Qing was dumbfounded. He was so shocked that he forgot to ask about Ning Fan's concoction level. Xue Qing paid some attention to Ning Fan. After all, Ning Fan was the disciple of the old devil. According to what he knew, Ning Fan was an intermediate harmonious spirit expert before he entered the sect. After entering the demon sinister forest for a month, he was already a late harmonious spirit expert. After entering the concoction room for a day, he had broken through to the peak harmonious spirit realm. Putting aside his alchemy skills, his cultivation talent was just too shocking. Even if he cultivated dual devil cultivation, he wouldn't be able to have such a cultivation speed. This kid, how did he do it? Xue Qing was stunned. He suddenly felt that it was ridiculous for him to look down on Ning Fan in the beginning. Even with his hundreds of years of experience, he couldn't see through this kid at all. After Ning Fan left, Xue Qing slapped his forehead. He finally remembered that he had forgotten to ask about Ning Fan's concoction technique. I'm so stupid. How could I forget about it? Xue Qing was annoyed and blamed himself inwardly. However, even if he didn't ask Ning Fan personally, he was sure of one thing. When Ning Fan walked out of the concoction room, the medicinal fragrance couldn't be faked. It was the smell of thousands of second revolution pills. In just one day, Ning Fan had concocted thousands of second revolution pills in the concoction room. Perhaps Ning Fan wasn't a fourth revolution pill master, but he was at least a third revolution pill master. Hiss. A 17-year-old third revolution pill master, or even a fourth revolution pill master. Xue Qing's eyes were blazing with passion. He had an urge to catch up with Ning Fan and have a good exchange of concoction techniques, but on second thought, he dismissed the idea. Forget it. Elder Ning needs time to stabilize his realm after breaking through to the peak harmonious spirit realm. I'd better not disturb him. He said that he would come back in a few days. And I'll wait for him. Unknowingly, Xue Qing had started to address Ning Fan respectfully. His self-address had changed from I to I. The change in the way he addressed Ning Fan indicated that he had acknowledged Ning Fan from the bottom of his heart. Chapter 89. Walking in the valley of the inner sect, Ning Fan stepped on the thick layer of fallen leaves. His back looked a little bleak. The closer a cultivator was to the gold core realm, the more they would forget about their emotions. It could also be said that the gold core realm was the realm where the cultivator had completely cut off all ties with the mortal world. The heart devil was getting closer and closer, making Ning Fan's heart feel a little uncomfortable. I don't like this feeling. He stopped in his tracks, closed his eyes, and stood in the wind, suppressing his inner demons. The wind was still blowing, but his heart was calm. After a long while, Ning Fan opened his eyes and restored his usual unruly smile. This is who I am. It was still early when he returned to the dual cultivation palace. However, Ning Fan had been continuously breaking through and concocting pills for a day and night. His body and mind were extremely tired. He put on his clothes and went to bed, half lying down, but before he fell asleep, the spiritual level formation light outside the courtyard flashed again. Egret is here again, what a troublesome woman. Can't you stop for a while? Ning Fan got up and sat at the head of the bed. Right at that moment, he saw Bai Lu pushing the door open and entering the room. She was wearing the same arrogant smile that she had when they first met. She was sneering at Ning Fan complacently. Humph. A mere human cauldron actually dares to disappear for a day and a night, making me, your master, look for you. Cauldron? Are you calling me? If it wasn't you, who else would it be? I was the one who won the night before yesterday. According to our agreement, if I manage to pluck a strand of your cultivation, you will be willing to be my cauldron. Bai Lu's tone was a little arrogant. After breaking through to the intermediate harmonious spirit realm, a trace of arrogance seemed to have risen in her. Oh, that matter. If you didn't mention it, I would have forgotten about it. Miss Bai Lu, look, it's still early. Isn't it inappropriate for us to have sex in broad daylight? Ning Fan rubbed his forehead. His expression didn't change, but he laughed in his heart. This Bai Lu was still kept in the dark, thinking that she had succeeded in plucking Ning Fan. After all, after a night of sexual intercourse, Bai Lu's cultivation had advanced from early harmonious spirit realm to intermediate harmonious spirit realm. It was indeed like a successful plucking. Humph. Ning Fan. You're already my, Bai Lu's, human cauldron. Don't tell me you want to go back on your word. Let me tell you, Big Sister is going to pluck you today. Well, it's up to you. I'm very comfortable anyway. But it's still early. Have a drink with me. When I'm drunk, you can pluck me until you're satisfied. Ning Fan didn't put Bai Lu's plucking in his eyes. How was that plucking? It was more like throwing herself into his arms. However, Bai Lu herself hadn't realized it yet. What? Drink wine? Bai Lu revealed an awkward expression. She had never touched a drop of wine because her alcohol tolerance was too low. Moreover, even if she were to drink with Ning Fan, what right did she, Bai Lu, an arrogant woman, have to drink with him? She could not wait to hate Ning Fan. Even though her mood had changed a little after having intercourse with him twice, her hatred for him remained the same. Just as she was about to refuse, she saw Ning Fan patting his storage pouch and took out an ancient wine jar. It was unknown what kind of wine was contained in this wine jar. Even before the clay seal was opened, an alluring sweet fragrance wafted out. A trace of aroma contained rich spiritual qi. Bai Lu sniffed a wisp of aroma and was shocked. Her cultivation base had improved a little. Although it was just an insignificant trace, it showed that this wine was extraordinary. Drinking this wine could increase one's cultivation. Increasing one's cultivation base could protect the Sisters of Dual Cultivation Palace from being abused by men. Only an idiot wouldn't drink such a good wine. All right. Sister will accompany you for a drink. Bai Lu replied straightforwardly. She thought that although her alcohol tolerance wasn't good, Ning Fan didn't seem like a good drinker. She wouldn't get drunk after drinking a cup of wine. After I finish drinking, I will pluck you. I will pluck your cultivation base into my body. Bai Lu stared at Ning Fan and pondered bitterly. However, she was destined to be disappointed. What would be left in her body would only be the milky white liquid, not Ning Fan's cultivation base. I obtained this wine in the demon's sinister forest. It's called green ghost blood. Drinking a cup of it can elevate one's spirit. You are already an intermediate harmonious spirit expert. It's very beneficial to your cultivation base. But it's useless to me. Ning Fan said plainly. This wine was one of the items stored in the Green Clan's vault. Unfortunately, he was already a late harmonious spirit expert when he annihilated the Green Clan. Naturally, he wouldn't drink this wine. But today, his heart devil was gradually rising, making him feel inexplicably depressed. Since he couldn't use women to suppress his depression, he could only use wine to suppress it. A devil cultivator couldn't live without women and wine, otherwise, he would fall into qi deviation. Waving his sleeve, he took out 2 jade cups and opened the seals. The wine inside was as red as blood, as sweet as grapes, and as mellow as thousand-year-old spiritual herbs. This was Ning Fan's first time drinking wine. He lifted the cup and drained it in one gulp. This cup of spiritual wine was priceless, but he didn't care. This wine wasn't for improving his cultivation base or condensing his magical power, but to calm his heart devil. Perhaps it was because of Ning Fan's calmness that his cultivation base didn't improve, but his state of mind was gradually improving. He was drunk after 1 cup. He was swaying after 2 cups. He gradually sobered up after 3 cups. When he drank the 4th and 5th cup, his eyes were clear, without a trace of drunkenness. What is drunkenness? Death by wine is drunkenness. If I can maintain a trace of clarity in my heart, my body will be drunk, but my heart won't be drunk. In the end, there won't be a trace of drunkenness in my heart. Ning Fan said something inexplicable. He wasn't drinking wine, he was drinking the enlightenment. He was trying to find a way to eliminate the heart devil while he was drunk. The heart devil was like the wine that blinded one's heart. If he could maintain a trace of clarity in his heart, even if his body was eroded by the heart devil, he wouldn't succumb to the heart devil. Even if the wine was brewed from a 1,000-year-old spiritual herb, even if the heart devil was produced by an immortal emperor-grade devil art. With this thought in mind, Ning Fan drank more than 10 cups of wine, no longer showing any signs of drunkenness. The heart devil isn't scary. His eyes lit up. If he went into seclusion now to break through to the Gold Core realm and eliminate the heart devil, he had 50% confidence to eliminate the heart devil without any help. The funny thing was that while Ning Fan was enlightening himself with the wine, Bai Lu was drinking crazily on the other side. Bai Lu had underestimated the power of the green ghost blood. This was the precious wine of the great elder of Green Clan. It was brewed from a 1,000-year-old spiritual herb. A cup of it was enough to make Ning Fan drunk. She was merely an intermediate harmonious spirit expert with a weak body. How could she resist the power of the wine? Bai Lu took a sip of the blood-red wine with her pale lips. Immediately, her face turned red as if she was drunk. This girl wasn't good at drinking, let alone drinking a 1,000-year-old spiritual wine. It was fine if she was drunk. She could just lie down obediently, but this girl wasn't a peaceful person. Because of the power of the wine, Bailu's body became slightly hot. She was like Ning Fan drinking alone, but with every cup she drank, her body became hotter. It's so hot. I'm taking off my clothes. Don't peek. She glared at Ning Fan arrogantly, then began to take off the layers of gauze on her body. The gauze was thin. Her body was slightly sweaty, making her clothes stick to her body, outlining her graceful curves. Hot, still hot, it wasn't her body that was hot, but her heart. Bailu's eyes were blurred. She looked at Ning Fan in a daze. Her eyes were filled with love and hate, sorrow and reluctance. It was a pair of eyes that could deeply enchant anyone. They were pure, flawless and clear like the clear stream of the mountain. Even the stars in the sky lost their brilliance in front of her eyes. Her clothes were half covered. She suddenly stood up and went into Ning Fan's arms. Big sister feels so uncomfortable. Let me pluck you. She was like a water snake in Ning Fan's arms, rubbing back and forth. Her jade-like legs wrapped around Ning Fan's waist and her arms hugged his neck tightly. She was completely drunk, but she seemed to be instinctively attached to Ning Fan's arms. Her heart was still hating Ning Fan, but her body seemed to be enjoying Ning Fan's thrusts. However, Ning Fan wasn't in the mood to dual cultivate with this troublesome woman. Be quiet for a while. Wait for the sky to turn dark. He pointed his finger at the center of Bailu's eyebrows, causing her to fall into a deep sleep. Then, she fell into his arms and covered herself with a thin quilt. Ning Fan was still drinking cup after cup of wine to comprehend and stabilize his state of mind bit by bit. Bailu, who was unconscious, was still restless. In a daze, she started to talk in her sleep again. Mother, Lu Er wants to listen to a ballad, no. Ning Fan flatly refused. I want to listen to it. I must listen to it. If I don't listen to it, Lu Er won't sleep tonight. I'll go to the riverside and listen to the frogs singing. Ning Fan remained silent for a while. It was hard to imagine that the cold and arrogant Bailu would listen to the frogs singing like a fool when she was young. He revealed an inexplicable expression. After a long time, he started to sing the fisherman's song of Wu country. The song continued until the sky turned dark. Finally, Bailu fell asleep. The egrets fly in front of Mount Shisai, peach blossoms flow and mandarin fish are fat, green bamboo hat, green straw raincoat, slanting wind and drizzling rain don't need to return. Bailu was probably the cauldron that Ning Fan had the best treatment. She could dual cultivate and listen to Ning Fan's ballad. Sounds good. I want to listen more. Bailu said in a daze. When the sky turned dark, Ning Fan got up and kept the wine. He looked at the sleeping Bailu, thinking whether he should dual cultivate or not. Compared to ravaging a drunken Bailu, Ning Fan was more willing to lie on the ground and let Bailu pluck him. Am I getting worse? Ning Fan shook his head and chuckled. All of a sudden, he felt a chill on his back. His hair stood on end. He immediately dodged to one side. A ripple appeared in the void where he was standing a moment ago. Suddenly, a crack appeared and a bony claw stretched out from the crack, aiming at Ning Fan. The bony claw carried a trace of early gold core chi. When it missed its target, it immediately vanished and the void was healed. Ning Fan would never forget the bony claw's chi. His face darkened. He immediately held the separation slayer in his hand and was on high alert. However, the bony claw never appeared again. A sneak attack. It was Bone Emperor's sneak attack. But where did Bone Emperor attack from? Demon Sinister Forest? No. Demon Sinister Forest was a place that blocked all ghostly magical techniques. It was impossible for Bone Emperor to sneak attack him in Demon Sinister Forest. He has left Demon Sinister Forest and come to you country. Ning Fan's face turned solemn. If Bone Emperor left Demon Sinister Forest, he was afraid that he would be in great danger. Judging from the power of the Bony Claw, Bone Emperor could only exert an early gold core attack. The reason why Bone Emperor didn't show himself and only used a sneak attack was probably because he was waiting for his cultivation base to recover. Bone Emperor is really a maggot in one's bones. This time, Ning Fan had completely lost the mood for dual cultivation. In the Deacon Palace, Wang Yao kept the technique and revealed a trace of a sneer. His senses are quite sharp. It seems like it's impossible to sneak attack this kid. Forget it. This bone separation technique consumes a lot of my energy. If I can't kill him, it's meaningless to use it again. I'd better continue to devour blood and flesh to recover my nascent soul cultivation base. This kid won't be able to escape from my palm. This feeling of a cat playing with a mouse is very interesting. Hee hee. The night was getting dark. Wang Yao left the Deacon Palace and left Sinister Sparrow Sect in a flash. Chapter 90. Just in case, he calcined the bone countless times, and only after he was sure that there was no trace of divine sense in it did he put it away. It's not spirit sense tracking. Ning Fan closed his eyes, his brows knitted even tighter. He had no idea how the Bone Emperor found him. He had no idea where the Bone Emperor was hiding. He did not like the feeling of being in the light while the enemy was in the dark. Even with divination, he was unable to divine the location of the Bone Sovereign. As such, he could only be careful and guard against the sneak attack of the Bone Emperor. He patted on the bed and Bai Lu's slender and jade-like legs were touched by his palm. Bai Lu moaned softly in her sleep. She clamped her legs unnaturally and woke up. His face was still a little tipsy and dazed. Gradually, however, she felt that Ning Fan was actually extremely daring to touch her jade-like thigh. Bai Lu shuddered and nearly sobered up. You. What are you doing? Nothing much. I just feel that your legs are very beautiful. Ning Fan smiled faintly. His palm slid between Bai Lu's legs but was stopped by her hand. Even though she had already lost her chastity to Ning Fan and even took the initiative to pluck him once, she still felt extremely uncomfortable when Ning Fan touched her. When Bai Lu thought of the fact that her legs, which had attracted countless men's attention, were being desecrated by the person she hated the most, she felt a trace of shame. You want to take advantage of me while I'm drunk? Lie down properly. Let me pluck you, or else I'll kill you. Bai Lu's words carried a trace of coldness. From her point of view, she had plucked Ning Fan once. The current Ning Fan probably didn't even have a harmonious spirit cultivation base. As for herself, she had become a high and mighty intermediate harmonious spirit expert. Killing Ning Fan would be as easy as flipping her hand. However, because of Ning Fan's background, they couldn't kill him, but they couldn't avoid plucking him. Bai Lu pointed at Ning Fan's chest with her bewitching technique. However, the force of her finger was like a gentle breeze to Ning Fan. Her fair hands untied his pants. Then, she bent down and stroked the hair near his ear. Her mouth was filled with heat. Behave yourself. Then, I'll take less of you. Bai Lu held Ning Fan's fiery mouth and threatened him vaguely. Suit yourself. However, Ning Fan did not have the mood to enjoy it. All his attention was focused on defending against Bone Sovereign's sneak attack. As for Bone Emperor, he didn't launch another sneak attack. Ning Fan stayed in the Dual Cultivation Palace to regulate his breathing for 3 days. When his cultivation base had completely stabilized, he headed to the Pill Palace again. The triple revolving heart protection pill used to refine the black demon flame. The 3 reincarnation muscle growth pill that could cure Lan Mei's illness. It was the purple golden elixir that could help Si Wuxia improve her cultivation. The Yin lightning pill used to reconstruct Nangong's lightning veins. There was also the demon fusion pill, which was used to raise the human pet compatibility of that weirdo Yuchi. Of course, he was also preparing to concoct the dragon saliva pill and the complete cleansing pill. The former was a third revolution healing medicine while the latter was a third revolution medicinal pill that could restore one's magic power. It was better to be prepared just in case. Now that everything was ready, Ning Fan could start his seclusion without any distractions. The pill hall was cold and quiet these few days. Elder Xueqing seemed to have gone crazy. He actually didn't allow First Revolution pill masters to step into the Dan Hall. Only Second Revolution pill masters were allowed to enter the Dan Hall. A First Revolution apothecary is prone to cauldrons exploding. If the noise is too loud, it will affect others. This was Xueqing's explanation, one that others couldn't understand. Wasn't it normal for a cauldron to explode? It was just a small explosion. Who could be affected by it? Xueqing's purpose was very simple. He was afraid that Ning Fan would come to the Dan Hall unknowingly. Once he started concocting pills, Ning Fan would be affected by others. Elder Xue, can you make an exception for me? It's almost the end of the month. This junior has to submit 10 First Revolution pills to the sect. This can't be delayed. A green-robed youth put away his usual unrestrained manner and begged Xueqing bitterly. There were many First Revolution pill masters like him who were in urgent need of concocting pills and had to submit pills to the sect. However, Xueqing only responded with indifference to these people's request. This old man won't repeat his words twice. Those who have nothing to do with this old man, get out of here. Xueqing's qi was somewhat frightening. Devil cultivators didn't know how to reason with others. Their reason was their fists. If you had Second Revolution pill concoction technique, why wouldn't Xueqing let you in? If you have a Third or Fourth Revolution pill refinement technique like Ning Fan, Xueqing would even treat you as a distinguished guest despite his old age. The green-robed youth and the red-robed girl were sighing while the other looked indignant. Upon a closer look, the green-robed youth who was chased away by Xueqing was the son of Nan Gong, Nan Wei, whom Ning Fan had met once. As for the red-robed girl, she was a female disciple of Sinister Sparrow's sect. She had an unruly character, but was loyal to Nan Wei. Nan Wei sighed. He came to Dan Palace to concoct pills. The old monster taught Nan Gong the art of concoction, and Nan Gong taught his son the art of concoction. Nan Wei could be considered as a First Revolution pill master. Every month, Nan Wei had to submit 10 First Revolution pills to the sect. But it seemed like he wouldn't be able to submit the pills this time. If he couldn't submit the pills this month, it was inevitable that his contribution points would be deducted. What worried Nan Wei was that if Dan Palace was closed for a few months, not allowing First Revolution pill masters to enter, then the contribution points that he had painstakingly accumulated would be deducted completely. Forget it. Xiao Yu, let's go. Nan Wei sighed. Brother Nan, don't bother me. Isn't it just contribution points? What's the big deal? Yu Air has a few hundred of them. I'll lend them to you. If you don't want to, Yu Air will bring you to our Qin clan of Western Yu. The concoction room there might not be any worse than this shabby Dan Palace. What's so special about it? This old Xue has such a bad temper. He's just an early gold core old man. It's not like we don't have any gold core experts in our Qin clan. Brother Nan, I'll call my grandfather next time to help you teach this stinky old man a lesson, okay? The red-robed girl smiled playfully. She didn't know how arrogant her words were. Qin clan of Western Yu. The old ancestor was just an intermediate gold core old monster. He might be fine in Yu country, but who was he in the eyes of Sinister Sparrow's sect? And he still wanted to teach Xueqing a lesson. Xueqing was a Third Revolution pill master. He had made friends with gold core old monsters all over the world. Which gold core old monster would be stupid enough to make him their enemy? This girl's appearance was ordinary. She was the eldest daughter of the third generation of Qin clan of Western Yu country. Her name was Qin Yu. Her family background was not bad, but her character and mind were the worst. However, she liked Nan Wei wholeheartedly. Apart from Nan Wei, she had never been kind to anyone. She had always been arrogant and condescending. Nan Wei smiled bitterly. He didn't know why he had such an ill-fated relationship with this unruly silly girl. She wasn't beautiful and had a bad character. However, her sincerity towards him made it hard for Nan Wei to abandon her. Silly girl, don't talk nonsense. Sooner or later, you will offend someone because of your wrong words. Nan Wei instigated. He pulled Qin Yu's little hand and wanted to leave. As for Qin Yu, her little mouth twitched, showing a reluctant look. However, they couldn't leave now. Qin Yu's careless words had indeed infuriated Xue Qing. Hee hee. Little girl of Qin clan, you're really bold. You want to teach this old man a lesson? I don't know if I should say that you're astonishingly courageous or ignorant. This old man will teach you a lesson on behalf of old devil Qin. The voice came from the Pill Palace. Along with it was a tyrannical early gold core spirit sense that pressed down on Qin Yu. This was the Devil's Sect, a place where a single word could kill. It was common sense to not speak nonsense if one didn't have the strength. Senior, please show mercy. Nan Wei's expression changed drastically. He had never thought that Xue Qing would hear Qin Yu's ruthless words. He complained in his heart. He had expected that Qin Yu would offend someone one day, but he didn't know that this day would come so soon. At this moment, Qin Yu's face was pale with fear. She had never faced the wrath of a gold-core old monster before. Her heart slightly trembled because of fear. Only now did she realize how ignorant she was before. She actually dared to challenge a core formation old monster. Brother Nan, save me. She grabbed Nan Wei's sleeve tightly, not daring to let go. And Nan Wei didn't plan to abandon this girl. However, facing Xue Qing's ocean-like gold core spirit sense, Nan Wei felt that his level 10 vein opening realm cultivation base was as insignificant as a drop in the ocean. A gold core expert couldn't be defeated. What should I do? His mind was racing. If Xue Qing's spirit sense were to suppress Qin Yu, she would be seriously injured with her low cultivation base. But right at this moment, a scene that he had never expected to see appeared. A spirit sense that was as gentle as the wind spread out gently. Xue Qing's violent spirit sense was blown away by this spirit sense. At the same time, a teasing voice came from the forest in the valley. A young man in white robe and black cloak walked out slowly and smiled at the direction of the Pill Palace. Elder Xue, why are you angry with a junior? These two people are my friends. His words were light and casual, but Xue Qing's expression changed when he heard it. What? These two people are Elder Ning's friends? This old man was reckless. I'm sorry. Why would Xue Qing apologize to someone? A red light flashed out of the Pill Palace. It was the insufferably arrogant Xue Qing. However, the current Xue Qing was exceptionally respectful towards Ning Fan. At the same time, he looked at Ning Fan with an expectant expression. This old man has been waiting for a few days. Elder Ning is finally here. Xue Qing's heart was filled with excitement. Didn't he chase away countless First Revolution Dan Masters just to wait for Ning Fan? Qin Yu's small mouth opened slightly. Nan Wei was also slightly shocked. Xue Qing, who didn't even put the Qin clan in his eyes, was actually so respectful towards Ning Fan. This shock immediately turned into a trace of fire in Nan Wei's eyes. He had always been arrogant, but for the first time, he half knelt in front of Ning Fan. This was the second time Nan Wei met Ning Fan. The first time was at the Dao fruit auction. He was extremely respectful towards Ning Fan because of his father's identity as a Dan master. But this time, he couldn't even see through a trace of Ning Fan's cultivation base. He even felt a stab of pain when he looked into Ning Fan's eyes. Ning Fan's cultivation base had far surpassed Nan Wei. Greetings, young master. Nan Wei's voice was as firm as a boulder, filled with excitement and respect. This was because his young master was someone who could make the stubborn Xue Qing lower his head and apologize. However, Ning Fan didn't expect Xue Qing to be so respectful towards him. Why is this old man's attitude towards me so friendly? You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.